These are the final seconds.
The lead in the fourth. Can they hold on to it?
That do or die time. And everything rides on one shot. But it isn't going to be that easy.
And it's a one-point game.
This is down to the wire.
They're going to try the three-point attempt.
One shot to take you to the top. One winner. This is clutch basketball. That's the NBA playoffs. That's game.
In the Smoky Mountains, it's not just about getting away. It's about getting together to zoom across a zip line, splash down at water parks, shop till you drop, and say hello to the statue of our hometown hero, Dolly Parton. This year, discover the thrill of visiting the Smokies and reconnect with those you love the most in Sevierville, Tennessee. Learn more. Visit Sevierville.com. That's visit SEVIERVILLE.com.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Yo, 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 what up? This is Rocky Asuka Romero of Chaos, and you are listening to Keepin It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we're reviewing Summer Struggle in Sapporo, answering listener questions, and covering all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating interview. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, ProWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit NJPWEXT.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
Oh, I am nothing but thrilled to be back here on the Ace Podcast, Keeping a Strong Style.
Yeah, man. Missed you last week, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Missed doing the show. Missed getting the opportunity to express my opinions and let the thousands and thousands of you out there listening to this hear our bad takes. And I gotta say, I listened to the show this week, and yeah, Jeremy did a great job.
But yeah, man, doing the show solo last week, it was interesting, man. Definitely wanted to just give it a shot while the opportunity was there. But yeah, man, I didn't expect to go 2.5 on myself.
Well, I do apologize for not being here to be on the show for all you guys, but I gotta say, Jeremy doing it on his own. I know last week he said something that he wouldn't necessarily want to do week in and week out, but I mean, I thought that show was good enough to where I could actually say I would listen to that show. Like, let's say hypothetically, like I unexpectedly died, right? And you elect not to have another replacement co-host, then the ghost of me would like to listen to that show. I thought it was pretty good. And it's one of those things where, like, if you suck, I bury you. I just come on come on the air and be like, well, I guess we're never doing that again.
Yeah, I guess that sucked.
But yeah, so but glad to be back here, and seems like we got a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah, and we did have a question here from Reddit user the Peaky Blinders. So did you miss the young boy much last week, or do you think you'll be splitting into Keeping It Strong Style Hollywood and Wolfpack?
Well, I mean, they split, but they ended up reuniting.
Right. So I don't think we're not splitting the pod. We're not doing black and white, red and black for the pod. That didn't really draw well in the end.
Well, I mean, you could do your episodes, and I could do my episodes, and could do it that way.
And then do a big comeback episode.
Yeah, like once a month or something.
So we're gonna do a brand split.
Yeah. And then, but you'll like guest host on my pod, and I'll guest host on yours.
It'll be the once a month rule, where the other guy can come on the other guy's show, even though the brand's been split.
Yeah, but we won't follow it. We'll say it's a rule, and then we won't do it.
But yeah, man, we got a lot of New Japan here to talk about this week. First thing, some good news here from Kadani at Ibushi Road. He announced that all company employees and wrestlers got their first vaccine on 7/8, which led to Kota Ibushi getting some reactions to his first shot, making him miss July 10th and 11th Sapporo shows.
Yeah, man, if he's having adverse reactions on the first shot, just wait. That second shot, it sucks. Not for everybody, but, man, it fucking wiped me out, so, But I think the deal is, based on commentary, they pretty much just said, like, he's just having, elevated fever, nothing major, but they have the policy in place. If you have a fever, you can't compete. So that's kind of what the deal's been so far for Kota Ibushi.
So yeah, Ibushi, not getting the best reactions there from that first shot. So yeah, hopefully he has a not too bad reaction from the second shot, and we'll be able to be on deck for all the cards that are coming up in the next few weeks here.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, they're kind of counting on him.
Yeah, definitely. So now let's look at Summer Struggle in Sapporo. So like we mentioned, Ibushi off the card. A couple of the matches got shifted around with Ibushi being off. So we'll start with July 10th show, and the opening match was one of those matches that was affected by Ibushi's absence. He's supposed to be in a tag match with Master Wato, and that got changed to a singles match here. Master Wato defeating Yuya Uemura 9 minutes and 9 seconds.
Yeah, this was interesting in the sense that, Wato has had his share of trouble since he's returned from excursion, well documented on this show. But, this was putting him in a situation where he's facing off with Yuya Uemura. We saw these two wrestle as recently as November during the late end of the year Best of the Super Juniors. But this was kind of interesting because Wato's kind of even progressed a bit more beyond that point as far as his, being reintroduced to the company and kind of ingrained to Hantai. So, but at the same time, he's a junior. And then you've got Yuya Uemura coming, hot off of his, 5-match, 6-match, trial series. And he's looking just ripped and jacked. And they talked about in commentary how they're like, yeah, I mean, he's filling out to the point where, like, you'd have a hard time making an argument that he's still a junior. So, and that's only 7-8 months out from, the last meeting between these two. And all throughout the match, with Wato kind of being like a lower tier junior and not having the greatest standards of success this year, I almost was able to buy that Yuya Uemura could actually beat him.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just two guys that are kind of on a crossfire trajectory, it almost feels like.
Yeah, and Kevin Kelly made the good point on commentary. He's like, yeah, if there's any match that Uemura could win, like, it could be this one. And I mean, this match, it was pretty 50-50. I mean, Uemura got a lot of offense in. Wato definitely got his chance to shine as well, doing some of his signature stuff. The spinning back fists, some of his arm drags, and that backslide driver that he does, and he won the match here with the RPP, his version of the spiral tap to put Uemura away.
Yeah, and it almost seemed like he could have gotten the win with one of those signatures that you mentioned, and then he shook his head no, said he wanted to win it emphatically. I'm going to go hit him with the spiral tap. But, it's kind of interesting because, I mean, for the bigger stars, that's not how they do it. They usually hit him with a signature and are like, I don't even need my, XYZ finisher. Put this guy away. He's just in line. And Wato's like, nope, I better make sure. I don't want to fuck it up. I'm going to bust out my biggest move.
Right. I mean, we said also, Shingo this whole tour has been pitting a lot of people just to pumping Bomber. Sometimes we'll see, Tanahashi bust out like the clover leaf, or like he'll beat like the young lion with a sling blade or something like that. So, yeah, Wato's
I think a lot of times for the young lions, his main go-to is like the dragon suplex.
Tanahashi, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wato here, like I said, he's like making sure that he definitely got the W, hits the RPP, and gets the win here. So then we move on to second match on the card. Bullet Club team of Dick Togo and Evil taking on the Chaos duo of Tomohiro Ishii and Yo. And this is building up the Evil and Ishii program after the Never Six-Man defense against the third generation dads. Evil came out, attacked Ishii, and this is building up the rivalry here. And obviously Ishii was not very happy about that beatdown and has been targeting Evil.
Yeah, they're doing a great job on commentary again, sort of explaining the significance between these two and how their careers seem to almost be sort of interlinked ever since Evil returned from Excursion. And, of all the singles encounters they've ever had, Ishii has always had Evil's number. He's 4-0 against the guy, so kind of putting the pressure on Evil in a situation like this where, he was double champion last year. It only lasted a few months, and he's had, a big lack of success in major, matches and spots since then. And, I guess trying to get back on the right path. If you're in Bullet Club and you're lost, you got to beat Ishii. It worked for Jay White earlier this year, and I guess they're going to try the same thing with Evil. I don't know. Yeah,
well, we'll see if that works out for him. He did get the win here using his Darkness Scorpion to submit Yo. Then post-match, Ishii tried to get some more of Evil, but he fled to the back there. So then in the next matchup, we had another Bullet Club team, ELP, Yujiro Takahashi, and the returning Kenta. They lost to Tanahashi, Taguchi, and a returning Rocky Romero to Japan.
Yeah, very good to kind of get the band back together, the mega coaches, and just to kind of see all their antics, all throughout the match. Pretty interesting, pretty entertaining stuff, especially with Tanahashi. I like goofy Tanahashi, so.
Yeah, it's always funny. Yeah, dude, they had this man like blown up when they were like doing the double coach spot. I feel like he legit got blown up because like he went out to like the apron and like was just like down, like the ref like even checked on him.
Yeah, bro, Tanahashi's not doing cardio these days. Like his cardio is his wrestling matches. Like this man is straight up just doing like lifting weights and resistance training, anything to like keep up the resemblance of his muscles. Like he doesn't have the time to like go develop a gas tank.
Right. And yeah, so unfortunately it wasn't like a 10-man tag where you can have like, 3 or 4 guys running. It was just the 3 of them.
No, that's what was funny about it.
Yeah.
Just Tanahashi.
But Tanahashi did get the win here for the team. He hits the high fly flow. That's right. He's damaging his knees in this multi-man match here. It's the high fly flow on Yujiro for the win.
It was a big show. Okay, it was Summer Struggle in Sapporo. All right, Jeremy. Let my man's fly. He wants to fly. Let him fly.
I'm just not trying to get our what was his gimmick in that movie? The cockroach guy.
The cockroach, yeah.
Yeah, not trying to relive that.
That's like the ending of The Wrestler. Like, you don't know what's going to happen to Mickey Rourke's character. I'm like, is he going to die when he lands?
Yeah, one of these days, Tanahashi's going to hit the high fly flow and it's just not going to get back up. It's going to be very sad.
Don't say shit like that. That's not cool. You don't know that? This man's straight. Like, come on.
Man. But moving on to next match on the card, we had the United Empire, Great O'Connor returning Jeff Cobb. They defeated the Chaos team of Kazuchika Okada and Sho. And Cobb, a lot of jaw-jacking here, calling Okada a young boy and building up some heat there.
Yeah, the young boy thing was kind of weird. I guess, well, at the end of the match, Cobb beat Sho.
Yeah.
And, Okada was showing concern, and he was like, I think what he was implying was like how the young lions will, come up and put the ice pack and take care of them. Like, the fact that Okada was sort of like, deferring himself and, showing concern for Sho. I think that's what he was kind of talking about.
Yeah, he was telling Okada, go get the ice bag and do your young boy duties and take care of Sho.
But this match was interesting in a certain sense because with Okada, they're clearly building up a program between Okada and Cobb, but Sho was, I would say, I would just call him like a sidekick here. It seemed to be that there was a little bit of a narrative for him as well, trying to get the suplex on Jeff Cobb at all costs, which ultimately was his undoing in the match. And I also really enjoyed the strike exchanges and almost sort of like quasi-shoot sequences between Sho and Great O'Connor in this match as well.
Yeah, it's almost Sho as, doing some UWF, some GLEAT style wrestling.
GLEAT.
No, it's GLEAT.
It's GLEAT. And actually, it's R, so it's GREAT.
Well, it's supposed to be, I guess, a play off of Great and how great it's said in Japan, but on commentary they said the commentary team was saying GLEAT.
Yeah, but I'm telling you it's GLEAT. I don't care what they say, it's GLEAT. No, I'm just playing.
So we had a question here from Reddit user _stress_. How ready are y'all for a potential Cobb Great O'Con tag title run?
Oh, I'm so ready for it because all throughout the matches that they had these past couple days, they've really been kind of hinting at the idea of, these tag matches really playing a part in determining the next contenders. Once the tag title match on day 2 was kind of settled. And yeah, it feels like based on the level of success they've had and the trajectory of where they're at in the company, that the United Empire is probably next up to bat for a tag title challenge. And with the way those things been hot potatoing around, I mean, who's to say that they don't win them pretty soon,
Right, yeah, and I would be pretty excited for them to get a tag title shot. I mean, we've seen these guys team up in the World Tag League. They got kind of thrown together there when the Empire started, and they gelled together really well. And obviously, since the United Empire has been going, they've formed great chemistry. And we talked about it. The United Empire, they kind of like the LIJ, and in fact, we know no matter which two you put together, or even a multi-man, an 8-man, no matter what combo it is, United Empire just gels really well together, has great chemistry, puts on some really good matches. So Cobb and O'Con, they looked really good in this tag match, and they've been looking good on this tour. And, one thing we complain about with the tag division, there's not a lot of fresh challengers, not a lot of new matchups. Well, Cobb and O'Con would be a fresh team to go in there with a Dangerous Techers, with a GOD, or, whatever, mega combined tag team there is out there.
Yeah, and the nice thing with that, too, is, like you said, sure, we might complain a little bit about the lack of competitors, but all it takes is a month or two of heating up a couple teams, and, with the talent pool they have in New Japan, they can have, plenty of established teams ready right away, and that's kind of what they've done here, with LIJ and with United Empire, and all of a sudden, a division that was super stale and boring for the greater part of the last year or two.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, is suddenly exciting again,
Yeah. Then we move on to the semi-main on the show. We had the LIJ team of Bushi, Sanada, Shingo, and Tetsuya Naito defeat the Suzuki-gun team of Doki, Taichi, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, this again, it's was a preview for the title match that was going to main event the very next night. I thought this was pretty good, all around. Like you mentioned earlier, LIJ, they're just so cohesive, and putting them in there with a team like Doki, Taichi, Kanemaru, and ZSJ. I mean, those four guys have sort of been gelling all throughout the pandemic era as well. So I mean, this had a recipe for fun and exciting, and I don't think they overstayed their welcome, but a really good little semi-main event to kind of preview for what was to come the next night.
Yeah. So then we move on to the main event of the evening. We had the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title on the line. The champion, El Desperado, defended against the Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori, defeated him 28 minutes and 54 seconds. Thoughts on this matchup here?
Yeah, this one was interesting. You had the heel dynamic where both guys were, black hats and rule breakers. And we've kind of seen that play out during tag leagues and, things of that nature between Bullet Club and Suzuki-gun. But we kind of saw that play out here. These two guys have only had one career meeting prior to this, and it was in that earlier Super Juniors from the end of the year last year that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. And this was sort of like, at this point, Desperado's the champion. Ishimori has not beaten him up to this point. And both guys kind of came in there with game plans, Desperado knowing that, his finisher or his, submission finisher relies on legs. He focused on attacking the guy's legs. And then Ishimori sort of focused on the shoulder, to kind of set up the yes lock. Very reminiscent of what he did a year prior during the Summer Struggle tour to Hiromu Takahashi. So both guys kind of came in there with game plans, and we saw that play out all throughout the match.
Yeah, and Ishimori also too. He's also using the bone lock as well, of the yes lock bone lock that Gargano escape, Border City stretch jurisdiction. So yeah,
and it's cool how he kind of transitions between the two moves as well.
Right, and either or, he gets in one position and he can kind of transition into the other one. And speaking of transitions, there was a lot of really good counters and transitions into this match. In and out of like the Pinche Loco and the Bloody Cross, towards the end, the ending stretch, there's a lot of great reversals in that closing sequence. Ishimori reversing the Pinche Loco into a Hurricane Rana. Ishimori, going for the Bloody Cross. Desperate reversing the Bloody Cross into a backslide. Ishimori reversing the Pinche Loco into a bone lock. Despia once again countering the Bloody Cross, and there's so many great back and forth counters between these guys.
Now, this is something that brings up an interesting point. I agree with you. I thought that they had some fantastic sequences, and the transitions were really exciting. But the one thing that stuck out to me during all of that was how almost non-receptive. I guess non-receptive isn't the right word, but the crowd just didn't seem very bought in or enthused during those sequences. And I know it's difficult to kind of gauge how over something is, especially in this pandemic era, especially like the continued clap crowds in New Japan. But I feel like at least to this point, it might not be easy to tell what's getting heat necessarily, but we can at least get some gauge of how excited the crowd is for particular things based on the physical response, even if it's not using their voice. For instance, most of the sequences on the following night in the main event in the same city, so probably a similar crowd, they were just like boisterous, going crazy. But for this match, they're coming down to the tail end stretch and doing awesome transitions for all these finishers and submissions, and the crowd just seemed dead. And it wasn't like they were a dead crowd all night. I kind of got the feeling that they were maybe not bought in on this feud, or maybe a lot of that goodwill that Desperado had going earlier in the year when he won, double gold in a couple days. Like maybe that's kind of dissipated. I don't know. Did you catch any of that yourself?
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, the crowd didn't seem as into this match. I mean, with night two did have the benefit of having about 1,000 more fans the second night, but still, yeah, crowd didn't really seem into this, and it could be a thing. You have heel versus heel here, like you mentioned. Despy, I feel like they kind of failed to capitalize on some of that momentum that he had at the beginning of the year. He had the match with Hiromu, and then he had the match with Ibushi, and I feel like after that Ibushi match, he just kind of like fell off the map, and they really didn't do.
He didn't. It's Show's fault. Remember, like they had him set up for a hot feud right after that, and then Show, and him got COVID or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yo.
Oh my bad. Yeah. Yo.
So yeah, but even before the Yo feud, I feel like there was still like he wasn't really doing anything until Yo came back.
You mean Desperado?
Yeah, I feel like they weren't really doing much of Desperado.
Yeah, I guess I guess that might be true. I don't know. It felt like the Yo match was supposed to happen in short succession from when he won the title. That to me that doesn't seem like it was that long after he wrestled Ibushi for the title.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but yeah, it just felt like they failed to capitalize on momentum. Also, another thing that might have affected the crowd was the interference. Mid-match, you had ELP coming out, pulling the ref out, hits a sudden death to the midsection of Despy, but then Kanemaru comes and makes the save and gets ELP out of there. And it's just one of those things where, like, interference and stuff like that could work when it's done sparingly, but unfortunately, we've seen in New Japan that it's done a lot, especially when you have a Bullet Club team or guy in a matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to complain about that too much. I think obviously it's problematic, and we've talked about it ad nauseum. My whole thing is just in a vacuum, it seemed fine, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of something we have to kind of consider is like this going to be the standard norm for this company going forward, especially when Bull Club's involved, like you mentioned, because it's like the amount of ref bumps and the amount of interferences, like it feels like it's so much more than this past year or two than it's been, prior to this. And I know it's always been there, but man, so that definitely could have been something that took a little bit of the wind out of the sails for people. I felt like I liked this match quite a bit. I thought it told a good story, but I don't know. I'm not as high as I feel like a lot of other individuals were. I'm probably somewhere between 3.5 and 3 3/4. I might lean a little bit towards 3 3/4, I suppose.
Yes, I went 3 3/4 on it as well. Very good matchup. And something else that I just thought about that we talked about on the show too is just the almost like the changing of the junior style. Again, this was a match. Also, Ishimori does do some high flying, but not a lot. And Despy doesn't really do a lot of high flying either. But it wasn't that high pace, high intensity, crazy flips, crazy dives kind of match. They did have crazy sequences towards the end, but it wasn't a Osprey Ricochet. It wasn't a Dragon Lee Hiromu. It wasn't one of those kind of epic junior main events that we've gotten in the last several years.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I really, really enjoy the work of both Desperado and Ishimori. But yeah, I've definitely noticed that it's right now at the top of the scene. They're working a very different style than that you just mentioned. We'll see what happens. It seems like we've got other challengers and other individuals coming back and coming into the division very shortly. That might change the way that some of these matches are kind of laid out and worked.
Yeah. So the finish of this matchup here, like I mentioned, that they have that reversal sequence there where they're reversing all the big moves. Despy, in the beginning of the match, Ishimori had exposed the corner pads, and so Despy pushed him into the exposed corner, hits the closed fist right hand, hits 2 Pinche Locos, and pins him Undertaker style to get the win.
Yeah, and then post-match, as we're getting ready to go into a post-match promo by Desperado, the lights go out, the Titantron or projector screen comes on, and we get a message from Robbie Eagles talking about how he's been watching and seeing how everyone's jumping all over the champion to be the next in line, and he figured it was his turn. So, he made his formal challenge for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Seems like he's been staying very active in Australia, in that area, during this lockdown period where he hasn't been able to return to Japan, but his return is imminent, and it looks like he's next in line to challenge for the title.
Yep, he's going to be on these next set of tours, and we'll go over those after we review the show from the 11th. So, yeah, glad Robbie Eagles coming back on the tour, like you mentioned. Looks like he's been doing some great work while he's been away from Japan. He posted like a highlight video, I think that was today, just showing some of the work that he's been doing since he's been gone. So, pretty excited about that. And, we've been seeing Hiromu up and down these shows, kind of doing various jobs, and he was kind of hyping up the shows on this night and the following night. And so before Eagles came out, like made his videos, I was thinking maybe Hiromu might be ready and they could go to Hiromu Despi for the Dome, but not the case here. So then we move on to July 11th for the second night of Summer Struggle in Sapporo. Show opened up with the Suzuki team of Despi and Kanemaru, and they defeat the team of Sho and Yuyamura 12 minutes and 3 seconds.
Did you do Peaky Blinders question?
Oh, nope. Totally skipped that. Peaky Blinder did ask about the main event. He said Ishimori's counter from the Pinchy Loco into the Yes Lock. Pretty damn incredible, right?
Yeah, definitely a highlight of the match. Yeah, I kind of wonder how these guys come up with this stuff. Very creative.
Yeah, like I mentioned, there was just a lot of great, just counter and transitions. Ishimori attempting like Mystica and Despi countering some of that stuff.
Well, they did a great job on commentary, just kind of explaining the backgrounds of these two guys and how they're two of the domestic guys that really bring that lucha / lucha rezu style to New Japan. And even kind of talked about how like Taiji Ishimori came up through the Dragon Gate Toryumon route into Noah and all of that, and kind of your definition of lucha rezu being trained by Ultimo Dragon, and then kind of contrasting that with El Desperado spending his time in CMLL when he was on Excursion, the very traditional lucha libre route, wrestling on the dirt mats and everything like that. So, and that really played itself out here, not just in, the type of, big, main event style wrestling that they do in Mexico. That was kind of on display here, but also, the transitions that you mentioned are very Yave-esque.
Right. Yeah. And something else, too, I want to point out before we move on. Ishimori pulling a page out of Robbie Eagles' book, doing a 450 on the arm of Desperado to work on the arm to set up the bone lock and the yes lock. So I thought that was interesting. Kevin Kelly did point that out, that, Ishimori kind of stealing some offers from his former tag team partner.
Yeah.
Okay, so now with that, we can move on to night 2. And like I said, we had Despi and Kanemaru defeating Sho and Yuyamura opening the show. Not really much there. Maybe we're setting up Suzuki Roppongi 3K match again, but I don't see what's the next direction here for any of these guys. Well, obviously Despi has a title match coming up, but this is just kind of a opening match here.
Yeah, fun opening match. Very good stuff here. Yuyamura, different level right now.
Yeah. Following matchup, we had Rocky Romero, Ishii, and Ryusuke Taguchi defeating the Bullet Club team of ELP, Evil, and Taiji Ishimori. And like I predicted last week, Rocky did get the pin here on ELP to set up for a junior tag team title match.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it almost felt like over in America, they were sort of telling a prolonged story of Rocky sort of being, him trying as a veteran to rededicate himself to the sport, but he keeps coming up short, time after time after time. And they kind of alluded to that on the commentary here, but they almost kind of retconned it. They're like, yeah, he's back in Japan and, he's rededicating himself and he suffered some great, a couple, losses, but he's back on track. And I'm like, but that was that happened Friday. Like, just lost a big match Friday, and then suddenly, like, Saturday and Sunday come, and, you know, he's in tag team action, and, you know, he's picking up, you know, big wins here. So, I don't know. I thought the match was fun. You know, I'm a big mark for the Rocky Romero, El Phantasmo stuff, and to see him constantly, you know, get the one up on ELP, that's always a positive in my book, you know?
Yeah, their match from the 2019 Best of Super Juniors was just awesome. One of the best matches of the tournament that year, and it's great seeing them mixing up again here. And yeah, Mega Coaches back together, getting a shot here. They did not have a easy time.
Are you sure that was 2019? I feel like that might have even been 2018. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was 2019.
Doesn't matter.
But either way, everybody knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, the coaches here, they did not have an easy time coaching Ishii in this match like they did with Tanahashi. Ishii just wanted to get his hands on Evil.
Ishii doesn't give a fuck.
He's like, y'all do your thing. I'm going after Evil.
Here's one thing I really appreciate about both of these nights is, like, while I wouldn't call either of them like blow away nights or anything like that, we just, you know, even with these undercard matches, they made it worth your while because they had, you know, narratives that were playing out and that were, you know, pushing forward the stories for the next few shows and, you know, next few tours that are coming up. And that's something that we've kind of complained about that was sort of missing. And you see a great example of it here with, you know, the Mega Coaches putting themselves in alignment to be challengers for the Bullet Club's junior titles. And then, you know, the continuation of Evil and Tomohiro Ishii. And we're about to see all of that play out here very shortly. So I, you know, kind of appreciate this. Plus, you know, we got a fun upset win, which was great. And, you know, post-match, Rocky and Taguchi pretty much declared themselves title challengers. And they also said that they're going to expose what is in the boot of El Phantasmo for sudden impact.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's going to be obviously a big story in their match going forward. Probably maybe a lot of them trying to get the boot off. Maybe I can see Taguchi getting the ankle lock on and trying to pull the boot off to expose the sudden death, the loaded boot.
Well, it's going to be embarrassing for everybody when we find out that El Phantasmo never had a loaded boot. He literally did become a master of kicking out in the great tundra of, you know, Canada, kicking trees and shit.
Yes, it's going to be the egg on the face of the Mega Coaches.
I'm going to write a manga about a man that's a professional wrestler and he turns his whole career around by going and kicking trees. Like, he's a terrible wrestler, but if he hits you with that sudden death, it's over for you, you know?
Hey, it could work.
That's pretty much what ELP is.
Wow. So moving on to the next matchup here, we had the Bullet Club team of Kenta and Yujiro Takahashi defeating the team of Hiroshi Tanahashi and Yota Tsuji, and we see the continuation of the build here between Kenta and Tanahashi. And I think we forgot to mention from the previous night, after the Tanahashi team won, Kenta came back out and attacked Tanahashi before he went back to the back, and so
yeah, he beat the brakes off that man. He was throwing hands on him.
Yeah, and then this night him and Yujiro get the win, and there was also a lot of jaw jacking between Kenta and Tanahashi here.
This was a match that was very interesting, where there was a short sequence where Tsuji hit like all of his signatures, and then he hit the Mount Fuji or Tsuji or whatever it's called. And he hit it on Yujiro, and I was like, oh my god, he might have won.
Dude, yeah, he was getting a lot of offense on Yujiro, and there was like some really great near falls toward the end, and I'm like, are they gonna let this man beat Yujiro? But
yeah, we're such marks. Like, we know better than to know that they would ever do that, but like, I still kind of bit a little bit, so.
Yeah, especially that inside cradle towards the end there, but Yujiro was able to...
This match was interesting too, just in the sense that like it didn't really have any right to be as good as it was, but you know, I thought it was pretty good for, you know, a little 10-minute preview match, and you could definitely tell that, like, for instance, Yujiro is maybe trying to make a little, you know, last minute run to
get himself in the G1 is what it feels like.
Yeah, and that was another like narrative that they were talking about on commentary. Now is the time for people to kind of get their last good impressions in for the G1. It's right around the corner. Dates are we'll talk about that in the news, but it's about that time until people are trying to put their best foot forward so that the IWGP committee could select them for G1.
Well, you know how you get selected for something like that? You put your best foot forward every day, not just, a couple weeks out before you're about to be in the G1. You put your best foot forward and you end up being the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion like Shingo Takagi. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But Yujiro's not about that life, though. But yeah, he hit the Pimp Juice, got the win there for the Bullet Club team.
Oh yeah, he won. So yeah, and it was. I also thought about that too. I was watching this a little bit behind, and I knew that the G1, announcements were kind of coming out, and I was like, yeah, I don't think when they were, I wonder if when he was saying all that it was sort of like a little bit of an Easter egg to let people know, like, hey, we're about to make these announcements.
Yeah. So now moving on to the next match, we had the Great Okan and Jeff Cobb defeating the Chaos team of Okada and Yo. So once again, Cobb gets the win here. It's a tour of the islands on Yo. And once again, just kind of continued the jaw-jacking to Okada at the end. Once again, calling him a young boy and pretty much saying that Okada is not on his level.
Yeah, I noticed that the Chaos team seemed to have much less of an edge when it was Yo and Okada versus Sho and Okada.
Well, Sho's born heavyweight. Yo's a straight up junior.
Yeah, that was apparent in the way they worked this match. This man got eaten alive. There was a really cool moment where Okada tried to go for the drop kick, and Jeff Cobb caught him for
the spin cycle.
Yeah, spin cycle. That was really cool. Okan and Jeff Cobb, they're so great together. Earlier this year when the title was vacant, and then during Dominion they did the match with where we thought Okada was going to win against Shingo and he didn't. And then at the time I was kind of talking about, like, what if Jeff Cobb beats Ibushi? That might be a really cool feud or a cool match to get here in the near future. It would be like Okada and this version of Jeff Cobb. And clearly things didn't work out that way back then, but it seems like, now that we're sort of getting it, I think my expectations are going to be more than, met based on the interactions with these guys and these multi-mans.
Yeah, should be a great matchup. Cobb obviously doing a really great work in this new heel role as part of the Empire. Then obviously Okada is Okada. So should be some good stuff there. So we move on to the semi-main event of the evening. Once again, we had a change up here in the card due to Ibushi having to miss the show. So Master Wato, his tag team partner here, got thrown into the lion's den. I should actually say the Dragon's Den, as he had to face off against the IWGP World Champion, the Dragon, Shingo Takagi.
Yeah, I was thinking, what the fuck did Wato do to who did he piss off? Because they decided on one night to take him to the one extreme. We're going to give you the easiest win you could possibly get. And then the next night, they're like, you know what? You're going to fight the world champion.
They're like, you know what? You did great the first night. Let's give you a little tougher competition this time.
We're just going to kick it up a notch, okay? Just one. Half a notch. It's fine. You're going to fight a trainee the first night. And then you're going to fight the fucking toughest dude in the entire company the second night.
You're going to fight the wrestler of the year the second night.
Someone that's probably a top 15 all-time great versus someone that just broke into the business like a year ago.
And
here you go.
Still trying to find his footing.
Yeah. Actually, I wonder how long those lines have been around. I think it's been at least 2 to maybe even like 2.5 years, it feels like.
Imura and CG?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've definitely been, I think, at least over 2 years.
Man, jeez. But yeah, it was just funny. Now here's the other funny thing is, like, they decided to give Wato so much offense in this match, and I was like, oh my god, it went like 14 minutes, and I was like, Wato should never get this much offense in against Shingo fucking Takagi. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, Shingo, very giving here, did give some offense here to Wato. But, I mean, there was points through the match where, like, Wato would try and strike Shingo, and Shingo kind of no-sold and shook it off and would just, like, kill him with a big lariat and take him down. But he did get to hit, like, the Tornillo and some of his, like, other signature moves, the backslide driver.
Yeah, I heard a funny story this week about Terry Funk and freaking Bruiser Brody. And, you know, like a couple years ago when internet boards first came about, people were watching like the Bruiser Brody like tapes when YouTube and all that came around.
Yeah.
And like newer fans were complaining about his no selling, like he was like some sort of like prick, which there are stories, but like Dave Meltzer was talking about this, and he was like, "Yeah, he's like, I'm interviewing Terry Funk, and Terry Funk's like, what the hell do they know? Who do you think called that match?" he's like, I told him to no sell my shit so he could get over.
Oh man!
Like if someone no sells, you think like it's just like them like not following the script. Like clearly, like it doesn't work that way,
Right? Yeah, not like Shingo wasn't really trying to bury Wato here. Yes, it's making Shingo look strong, but Wato, like you mentioned, had some good offense. He did hit the Tenzan tombstone driver at one point in the match, and he tried to go for the RPP again, that spiral tap, but Shingo said, "I'll move."
If he won, he would be the lineal IWGP World Heavyweight Champion at that point.
Right, and I think you would have to insert him into the Ibushi match.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Ibushi would have to be downgraded. He'd have to move to like a multi-man with Hantai at that point, I think. And you can't have a lineal champion just floating out there and let
Yeah, but that was not the case. Shingo moved, hit him with a sliding lariat, and hit him with the pumping bomber last of the dragon. 1, 2, 3. Shingo defeats Master Wato.
Thank God.
Then we move on to the main event of the evening, where we had the IWGP Tag Team titles on the line. Los Ingobernables de Japón, Sanada and Naito defeat Dangerous Tekkers, Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. 36 minutes, 57 seconds. What do you think about this big main event here?
Yeah, so this was one where I kind of knew I got spoiled going into the match, right? And I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't on the show last week, but I was already predicting LIJ to pick up the win here, which is awesome. But at the same time, like I'll also admit I was wrong last week or the week prior, because I kind of thought that Chaos were going to drop those 6-man never tag team titles. So batting about 500 here, but this one was interesting because Dangerous Tekkers have, just regained those titles. I think a lot of people were sort of thinking that, it was too soon for them to maybe turn around and drop the belts to a Sonata or a Naito. And when I looked at the results and I saw that this went almost 37 minutes, I almost sort of bemoaned the match, like I wasn't going to like it. And then actually watching it and kind of knowing the history between all these guys, I got to tell you, I thought it was one of the better tag matches of the entire year. I'm about 4 stars on it. And I wouldn't fight you if you went like 4 1/4, honestly.
Yeah, I went 4 1/4 on it. I thought it was a great main event for the show. These 4 guys have great chemistry, especially when you focus in on Zack and Sonata and Naito and Taichi. Their single matches in the past have always been great, and so mixing these 4 guys together worked off very well here. Telling a story of Naito kind of dodging Zack in the past, like in the build-ups, like Naito kind of refused to start with Zack, and so that's kind of a story that started at the beginning. And then also you had a lot of guys here who used submissions, working on body parts. So you had Naito working on the neck of Zack Sabre Jr. using that leg full Nelson. You had Sabre working on the knees of Naito. You had Sonata also helping Naito work on the neck of Sonata to do the skull end. So a lot of interesting body part work here.
For those of you that might hear that noise in the background, that's Jeremy's house phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard last week when you explained the dojo situation. Dojo red and black.
Yeah.
Still got landlines.
Yeah. See, the Wolfpack Dojo has a landline.
Yeah, earlier in the show too, like I've got a really powerful mic, and I'm, my office is like with the dog, so you might hear him like lapping water earlier in the show, like,
Yeah.
This is how it's gonna be until you guys start paying us more money to do this shit.
Yeah, and also your chair too.
Oh, my chair makes noise?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I can't even hear it. Like I'm like, it's one of those like office chair like joints. Like I'll stop moving around so much. God, you should have told me a long time ago. I've had this chair forever. We've been recording for months like this.
I think I've told you before.
Bro, I don't think you ever have. Oh man. Anyways, so you mentioned the fact that ZSJ and Naito's been challenging him, night after night to start the matches against him, and you almost kind of got the feeling like we're gonna get the payoff to that at the beginning of this match, and ZSJ might go man to man with Naito, and then he doesn't. You're like, oh my god, why did they do this? Well, it made all the sense in the world when the end of the match played out in a singles competition between Naito and ZSJ, and it almost was like Sabre sort of knew that Naito was focused and honed in on him and sort of had his number during this tour,
Right. So yeah, he was trying to avoid that one-on-one matchup at all costs.
Yeah, and I like that story. I also like, bro, think about this. I was watching the show, and I don't know if you've noticed, but like Zack Sabre Jr. is probably in the best shape I've ever seen him in since I've.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I know he's like supposed to be vegan, but I'm like, I don't know the rules of vegan, but like he looks like he's been getting on the horse meat like a little bit. Like he finally like cracked a couple eggs and he's eating some like actual protein, because this man's got like, kind of abs, but he's got some shoulders, he's got a tan, and I mean, bro, if I told you in 2017 that 4 or 5 years from now, Zack Sabre Jr. is gonna have a better looking physique than Tetsuya Naito, like I probably would have thought the future me was lying,
Right. Yeah,
but that's how it is.
Yeah, he's put on size. He's looking good. Maybe that man's getting ready for wants a world title run.
Singles.
Yeah, singles. But yeah, a lot of great sequences. Obviously, Sabre and Sonata had a lot of great chain wrestling and counters back and forth there. We got serious Tai Chi with, all his big kicks and his kamegaris and insuguris. We had a return of Miho Abe again for this big matchup, and she was kind of cleaning up the mess ringside when they would be brawling out to the outside.
The other thing, too, is the match was pretty straight. I mean, there was some, there was a moment where I believe Red Shoes got ref bumped, right? Or am I actually be confusing that with one of the undercard matches?
Yeah, I think you might be thinking about the junior title match. I don't remember. I don't think there was a ref bump here.
Yeah. So even with that not being the case, this match was pretty straight. I mean, you had one. Obviously, you've got Dangerous Techers who can, when they need to, sort of lean into the heel tendencies and all that, but they didn't really do that here. This was a straight up match. They really all played to their strengths as far as wrestling styles are concerned, and sort of the spots that have been established in the individual feuds that each of these guys have with one another. And it was just kind of like a really great classic tag team match. And I mean, it's weird because the match from the night prior was shorter, but it felt longer. This one kind of breezed by for me.
Yeah, and then like the closing minute here was really good stuff. You had Taichi hitting the last ride, and Zack hitting a PK.
Oh, they killed Naito.
Yeah, murdering with that. Zack gets a PK, gets a near fall. Then Taichi, he rips the pants off. They go for the holy Zack driver, but that's reverse. Naito hits a Destino. Sonata hits a moonsault and gets Taichi in the skull end, and then Naito hits another Destino. 1, 2, 3. We have new tag team champions.
Yeah, I really liked that moment where Sonata hit the moonsault, just because you could kind of tell the finish was coming, but I didn't expect him to run in, hit that, and like kind of leave Zach like prone, waiting for Naito to strike. So that kind of came out of nowhere. Once I saw that, I was like, oh my god, I think they're about to win. And yeah, it's exactly what happened. It was really cool.
Yeah, and then post match in the backstage comments, immediately Saber and Taichi rolled up on Naito and Sonata. And asked for a rematch, and Sonata or Stacks like, Sonata, why are you teaming with Naito? Like, you can do so much better than this.
That's funny.
And so yeah, pretty much just appeasing to Sonata to get a tag team title rematch, which we now have a date for.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed too is before this title change took place, there seemed to be some discussion of possibly Okada and Tanahashi challenging for these belts as well, based on some of the comments that Dangerous Tekkers had made before dropping the belt. So, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I could see after this next little bit, with, both Okada and Tanahashi having individual feuds, it doesn't seem like either one of them are poised and ready to jump straight into a singles title match. I mean, maybe the Mega Aces reuniting for a little bit is a possibility. And right away, if that is the case, I mean, you've got kind of a robust tag team division. Plus, also considering the fact that they're doing the tag team Turbulence tournament over in America as well, all of a sudden, the possibilities of possible matches within the tag team ranks grows exponentially.
Yeah. And the whole, scenario of them, Dangerous Tekkers calling out the Mega Aces, I kind of felt that almost was kind of a setup for their loss as well. Because if you look at the cards, you saw that Tanahashi was paired up with Kenta and Okada was paired up with Cobb. So clearly that was not the direction. Like I was saying last week, I thought it made a ton of sense for them to drop the belt so you can set up a rematch at one of these big shows coming up, and that's kind of the direction they went here. But I do think
there's also like a pretty cool kayfabe story there too, in that these guys were looking at visions of grandeur, comparing themselves to Holy Demon Army, and kind of looking past LIJ to other possible big money matches down the road with arguably the two biggest aces of the company. And instead, they dropped the belts, and now they're back on the hunt. They got to go, they got to beat Suji and Umura if they want to. They got to start at the bottom.
Yeah, they better fly over to Strong and face Wheeler Utah and Freddie Ahai.
No, they got to wrestle Jordan Clearwater
and Mysterioso.
Mysterioso.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that's what's going on.
We had some questions here on the title change. First from Rambo and Slam Pig. It says, is there some kind of law that every main event has to go about 30 minutes or more? I love the tag team main event from Night 2 of Sapporo, but they definitely could have trimmed 10 or 12 minutes and would have been as good or better. Same to a certain extent with Night 1.
Well, thank you for the comments and the question. To answer your question, yes.
Yeah, the IWGP
yes,
has put out a decree that every main event must hit the at least 30-minute mark.
Wait, so are you telling me that the competitors intentionally don't win the match until they pass 30 minutes? Wouldn't that indicate obvious cooperation? like this might not be on the up and up. Something might not be right,
Hey man, it's an interesting business.
Yeah, exactly. It's a business. These guys are trying to make money. They're swindling the gamblers. I don't like this shit.
They're doing long cons.
Yeah, it's a long con.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. Some of these main events don't need to go 30 minutes, but with them having reduced cards, they want to make sure the fans are getting their money's worth of the show and make sure they get a good long main event. And that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there could be more we could say about it, but yeah, that's pretty much the deal. I mean, am I the biggest fan of always having 30-minute matches as the main event? No, I'm not. Sometimes when, for instance, one of my favorite WWE matches is Brian Kendrick and Kota Ibushi, and that one I think is under 20 minutes. It's just incredible. So like, could New Japan do some really cool, hard hitting 15, 20-minute matches in the main event spot? Yeah, I think they could. But at the same time, to stay in that, like, depending on the show, for instance, these two shows were around the 3-hour mark. I think you'd have to supplement and give another match on the show ample time. And then kind of got to ask yourself, like, well, is there anything on the undercard that was built up enough to kind of, require the extra time that we'd give them? And the short answer is no. But I mean, that's more of a booking philosophy sort of thing. So I'd be fine with it if they went shorter. I just think, given what the fans are coming, kind of expecting on a bigger show like this, you got to supplement it somewhere,
Right, and for guys like a Taiji Ishimori and Desperado, I feel like that's probably a match that probably wouldn't main event under normal circumstances, and those guys probably would have typically got like a 15-minute match. I really enjoyed the match, and maybe that one could have been shorter, but the Techers and LIJ, I mean, those are four main event guys, four guys that have had big singles matches. I was fine with the length of their match. A big history between all four of those guys there.
Well, I also think from a booking perspective, it is problematic though to know that most matches are going past 30, because then it becomes very formulaic, and it feels like they're committed to being overly long and overly epic. And this is something we've complained about, not us on the air, but in private conversations. You see these complaints with like NXT and WWE and the kind of patterns they fall into with like the melodrama and the openly talking. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what New Japan's dealing with, but when a company falls into a pattern of expectation when it comes to the structure and the layout of the match, things become superfluous at that point. You're watching the New Japan main event, and like the opening is just going to be a bunch of chaining, and then there's gonna be some body part work, and then it's gonna get hot the last like 10 minutes, and nothing really until the last 5 matters. That's how a lot of people feel watching these New Japan shows, and that's something you want to kind of avoid, because if you're doing it every match, then the importance and the meaning of the match sort of dwindles. In a vacuum, it might work fine, but for those of us that are watching every show and seeing every main event, and it's not just the city audience, it becomes problematic.
Yeah, I think once the cards start getting back to normal and they can start doing more matches per card, I think we'll start to see some of the main events get trimmed down.
That's true, but this has even been an issue and a complaint pre-pandemic that New Japan was falling into this, tendency. And there was a time, say what you will about the Dark Ages and, pre-Tanahashi era, where guys could have longer or even shorter main event matches, just depending on what was needed and the story they were trying to tell. And I think every now and again, to have matches that are shorter or even maybe very short, depending on how you want to, for instance, just to give you an example, like the first Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar match, was super short, but it, effectively fit what was needed for that story. I don't see why New Japan couldn't do things like that. They've done it in the past. And, I think that might even be exciting for business if someone went out there and just fucking squash somebody,
Right, and then it creates that unpredictability. Like, you never know what's going to happen in the main event.
Yeah, and you get stuff like this during Super Juniors, and you get it during, G1 every once in a while, especially with goofy guys like Taguchi and Yano, and that's all well and good. But like, man, if like, for instance, Shingo's the champion, and I don't know, it doesn't even have to be one of the like main title matches, but like, what if he'd gone out there and he just fucking wrecked Watto in like a minute and a half,
Right.
That'd been cool, but like, instead we went 50-50 for like 15 minutes.
Right, yeah. So yeah, definitely a lot of things to kind of point out with the booking and how the cards are laid out, but we'll see how things change once things get back to normal. So his second question here, he says, is Naito and Sonata's tag team title reign a sign of A, nothing to do with them right now, so why not? B, trying to elevate the tag division with a main event star, or C, evidence that Naito was beginning his slide down the card toward eventual New Japan dad status?
I don't see why those are all mutually exclusive. I don't see why it couldn't be a combination of things. And I feel like now I will say the idea that he's sliding down the card to dad status is probably inaccurate and a little harsh, but there's no denying that right now, while Shingo's the champion and probably the top star in LIJ, yeah, it is a little bit of a slide per se for him as well as Sonata, two guys that have been in the title picture as recently as this year, for them to kind of be preoccupied here. I think all of those are valid reasons and probably accurate.
There is no programs for these guys right now, and they do want to also with the IC title merged and the Never title in the U.S., the U.S. title in the U.S. You need to elevate some of these other titles. So yeah, elevating the tag division, the tag titles was probably a goal here. And then I don't think that Naito was sliding down to dad status. Obviously Naito is still one of the top stars of the company. You put Naito in the main event. You can see the numbers between night 1 and 2 here. There was about 1,000 fan difference, and you had Naito in the main event here. So I don't think we're going to see like Naito as a opening match dad anytime soon. So then we move on to questions here from Steven from the Wrestling Squared Circle. First, he asks, with Naito and Sonata winning, are they a long-term team? Can you see Zack and Taichi winning again? Is there a singles title to push those two?
Yeah, I think that's a interesting question. I mean, could I see the former champions, get their belts back? Absolutely. I mean, it's the IWGP heavyweight titles. So, and that could be long-term or short-term, that could be the very next title defense, or it could be 6 months from now. And maybe it's not them, but, in terms of possibilities, that's got to be one of them. As far as Naito and Sonata are concerned, I don't really know. I did think that they might win this, but in terms of like what the booking decisions are going to be going forward, I mean, I'm optimistic, reluctantly, because we kind of said the same things about Golden Ace, and it didn't really pan out the way that we kind of hoped when it came to Tanahashi and Ibushi. But I did notice that Naito made some interesting comments at the end of this match, and he kind of discussed, for the first time, Shingo being the champion and each member of LIJ needing to kind of prove themselves and find their placement within the group, which might be a little bit of a hint to possibly some infighting, maybe some strife between them.
And that kind of started with the Never 6-man title match, with Shingo winning the title. That Naito was trying to look for, get the team some gold there. The 6-man titles that didn't work out there, so then he transitioned over to the tag titles with Sonata. So yeah, definitely there could be some tension, or just kind of one of those things where he's trying to get the rest of LIJ to step their game up as well and get titles. So it'll be interesting to see what comes from there. As far as
and that's to kind of speak to that, that's the kind of the beauty of it, is it's a little bit nuanced, because maybe he's jealous a little bit, and maybe that's kind of festering and developing, or maybe, like you said, he's just trying to be a good leader and motivate everybody, and you don't really know which one's which.
Right. And as far as like Zack and Taichi getting a singles push, I mean, I would love to see those guys get some more singles opportunities. I mean, I love them as a team, but I think both of them are great in singles role, and I think it'd be cool to have guys like Zack and Taichi up against Shingo, and it may have been challenging Shingo. I think Shingo could have really good matches with both those guys.
Yeah, it's funny with Taichi. I think we've always been a little bit ahead when it comes to him in terms of our reception to his character and his gimmick and his work. it always feels like maybe the general public is a little bit behind on that. But at the same time, I've never fully bought in on Taichi, especially how many times he's fucked off and kind of given us poor performances.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost feels like the company has to commit to him before we can receive him properly, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, you want him to do well, and you hope that he does, but then when they push him, my knee-jerk reaction is always like, I don't know, this seems like a mistake. And then when he, like, delivers, you're like, oh, shit, this was awesome.
Right,
know?
yeah.
And so I still kind of feel that way with him. It's like when it comes to, for instance, like with Zach, if they go and really give him a sustained singles push, which it feels like they haven't done anything like that with him since he won the New Japan Cup, that was like what, 2017?
2018 New Japan
2018?
Cup.
Yeah, it's been a while. That kind of made him, but since that time, he hasn't felt like a really, really serious, strong singles competitor. And at the same time, like, I feel like it wouldn't take much to heat him up. But with like Taichi, he's light years beyond where people perceived him a year or two ago. But I still don't think most people see him as being like upper mid card level, which is kind of what he's on the cusp of right now,
Right. Yeah, he might need like a run with, the Never title or some other, secondary title before he gets like a world title shot.
Taichi, U.S. heavyweight champion, headlining all over the country, different regions.
Yeah, maybe he can be the one to beat Mr. John Moxley.
He's going to be a super draw in Texas.
His second question, he said, with Sonata winning the title, does this mean Sonata is a tag team guy only? Do you think the promising young guy is now tag only? Did his singles title hopes gone?
There's so many worse things that you could be than a tag guy, Like, I don't know.
Could be a job guy.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say, I don't think he is, because they're still, presenting him and Naito as like an all-star team, which is what they are. This podcast is all in favor of all-star tag teams, so I think it's great. But I don't think singles title gold is out of the question for him down the line. Although, has he held any singles gold in New Japan? I don't think he ever has.
No. I think the only
was he the Rep Pro champion or no?
He challenged Sabre, but I think he lost, because that was at Wrestle Kingdom, right, where he faced Sabre and lost.
Yeah, bro. I don't think he's ever held a singles championship in New Japan.
Yeah. I think he's failed in every defense every challenge he's had.
Loser.
He might. Maybe they see him as like a tag team champion guy, but right now, like you said, it's kind of like a mega team, super team here. And I think eventually we'll see Sonata probably back in the world title picture at some point.
And like I said, in the past, even if he's not quote unquote a tag guy per se, I think that he thrives in a tag environment. I think that, his best attributes are on full display in a tag environment.
Right, and we saw that with him and Evil, him and Shingo, and now with him and Naito. It just seems like the tag team, whatever it is, like that tag team environment, he just excels in.
Yeah, he's good at it, man.
Yeah.
He's Japanese Bobby Eaton.
Oh, man. And last question here from Dom Homie 101. We pretty much covered everything, I think. He said, any thoughts on the duo of Naito and Sonata winning the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships? What is the future for Naito and Sonata as champions?
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, we answered a lot of that, but it does feel like there's a date in the not so near future for LIJ and the United Empire. And kind of given the backstory, this past year with Naito and Okan still kind of having Naito's name in his mouth in the backstage promos, that's kind of what's next on the docket. And, I feel like that's probably why they switched the straps to LIJ, is like, these are two really big names, and this is a way that Okan can get his win back against Naito down the line without actually getting his singles win back from Naito. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. They could have, he pins him in a big tag main event and wins his first title that way.
And that does a lot, too, for Jeff Cobb, another guy that's kind of streaking this year and sort of really, he's got buzz and heat behind him. So that's what I'm thinking is next. I think it's going to be Empire and LIJ sometime in the not-so-near future.
Yeah, I would love to see that. Well, now we're going to go over the cards that are coming up for the next few big shows here in Japan. So coming up this Saturday, we'll have a Summer Struggle show at Korakuen Hall, Saturday, July 17th, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time on New Japan World. We're going to have a main event of Rocky Romero versus El Phantasmo, semi-main event of Ryusuke Taguchi versus Taiji Ishimori. Then we'll have Robbie Eagles teaming up with Roppongi 3K to take on Despi, Kanemaru, and Doki. Naito, Sanada, and Bushi will take on Dangerous Tekkers and Minoru Suzuki. And then the opener, we got Tanahashi, Ishii, Tsuji, and Yamura against the Bullet Club team of Kenta, Evil, Yujiro, and Dick Togo. So we got that big Rocky ELP rematch this Saturday. That should be pretty good. So then moving on to Summer Struggle in Osaka, Night 1. This is Thursday, July 22nd, 4 a.m. Eastern Start Time on New Japan World. We're going to have a main event of Naito versus Taichi, semi-main of Sonata versus Sabre. Then we got Bushi and Wato against Shingo and Bushi. Okada and Goto against Cobb and Okan. Tanahashi, Ishii, Yoshihashi against Kenta, Evil, and Yujiro. And then Robbie Eagles and Roppongi 3K against Despi, Kanemaru, and Doki. Summer Struggle in Osaka, Night 2, July 23rd, 1 a.m. Eastern Start Time on New Japan World. We got a main event of Naito and Sabre, semi-main event of Sonata and Taichi. Then we got Bushi and Wato against Shingo and Bushi. Okada and Yoshihashi against Cobb and Okan. Tanahashi, Ishii, and Yano against Kenta, Evil, and Yujiro. And then opener of Goto and the Mega Coaches against Taiji, ELP, and Jado. And then we got Summer Struggle in Nagoya on Saturday, July 24th, with a 4 a.m. Eastern Start Time on New Japan. We got Tanahashi and Kenta as the main event, Evil and Ishii in the semi-main event. And then we have Ibushi and Wato against Shingo and Bushi, Okada and Yano against Cobb and Okan, Goto, Yoshihashi, and the Mega Coaches against Yujiro, Taiji, ELP, and Jado. And then the opener of Eagle, Shoinyo, and Despi, or Eagles showing Yo against Despi, Kanemaru, and Doki. So, young boy, thoughts on these Summer Struggle shows before we talk about Wrestling Grand Slam?
Yeah, so I mean, pretty. Obviously we're in the route here where we're kind of continuing most of the feuds that were sort of established during these most two recent Summer Struggle shows. On the 17th, we're seeing the two singles matches that are previews for the junior tag titles. And, we're getting Rocky Romero and El Phantasmo. Those two have a very storied history. I think this is the third time in New Japan that they faced off in singles action in the main event. And then Taguchi and Ishimori, they have a lot of history with one another as well. So that stuff should be pretty good. And then kind of the same thing on the 22nd, you're getting Naito and Taichi and Sonata and Zack Sabre Jr. I would say I would expect to see more traditional heel and face dynamics start to emerge here, and maybe more heat on the back burner coming off this most recent title match between these two teams. And yeah, same thing on the 23rd, where you're kind of seeing, Naito and Sonata and Taichi and Zack Sabre switch roles. So that's also going to be interesting to see how that plays out, where you're getting Naito facing each member each night and vice versa. Because, obviously, those are four really big names, and it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to see any clean losses.
Right.
And if perhaps, let's say if Taichi's eating a clean loss, just as an example, each night, you might expect him to sort of be the weak link going into the next title match between these teams.
Right, and if they win the titles back, maybe he's the one that gets the win to redeem the two losses.
Yeah, so it's just going to be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. if there's any rifts that kind of grow between these two teams. They sort of seem that to be at a crossroads there. And then on the 24th, Tanahashi and Kenta. That's one of the bigger singles matches that they've been building up. And then Ishii and Evil. I got to tell you, though, I was sort of expecting both of these singles matches to sort of be in play for the Tokyo Dome, especially the Ishii and Evil match. But, to kind of see them in the top two spots on the Summer Struggle Tour for the show, I'm not super surprised, but with the Tokyo Dome around the corner, I was a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with the schedule right now with so many big shows and them having to spread stuff out. You need some big matches and some other shows here, and so they needed something for Nagoya. They got the Ace against Kenta, Ishii versus Evil, two matches that they've been building up the last week or so, and two big matches that Ishii or Tanahashi and Kenta they've wrestled 3 times now, so it's gonna be their 4th matchup. It's been good matches every time, and it's still, I think, a pretty big match that should, draw pretty well for that Nagoya show. We did have a question about Ishii and Evil from Rainbow and Slam Pig. It says, Evil sliding back into a mid-card matchup against a brawling, bruising heavy hitter makes me think he may be slotted back where he's best fitted. Any thoughts on what's next for him? I assume Ishii will carry him to a good match in Nagoya.
Well, that's kind of my first initial thought is I've seen Ishii and Evil have really good matches, and I've seen them have matches that I thought kind of lacked. Just now you mentioned that Tanahashi and Kenta, all their matches have been good, and I would probably counter that and say I remember a couple, maybe the first one for sure, and maybe 1 or 2 being good, but I also have seen them have matches that I was a little disappointed in.
Yeah, I would say the 2019 G1 match was their best match. I think that I would call that great. And then
I thought that match was great too.
Then they had the rematch in the 2020 G1, which was 3.75 if I remember. And then they had that.
I didn't like that
power struggle
match.
Yeah, the power struggle match.
Yeah, that's the one I didn't even realize they've wrestled this many times. But yeah, I didn't like the briefcase match. So, and I say that hopefully, I'm hoping that with both of these 2 matches in the top spot, that they're going to go out there and kind of deliver. And we know that they're capable of it. But I've seen both of these tandems sort of underperform. So I don't know that Ishii for sure is going to carry Evil to a good match, or Tanahashi, Kenta, vice versa. But I also don't know that Evil is necessarily sliding back into a mid-card status. I mean, I think there's some indicators to support that for sure. But, we see lots of times where top stars, or top fledgling stars have to kind of take a little bit of a seat, or, a back seat while some of the other guys are kind of, set in place with facing one another. It doesn't mean that they're done with him per se. And, I don't know. People didn't say this about Jay White when he was first coming back and slot against Ishii. I don't think just because he's fighting Ishii that he's in the mid card. And in fact, he's probably going to beat Ishii. To make matters worse.
Right. Yeah, he's kind of been simmering on the back burner. Feuding with Yano for KOPW, having a never 6-man defense. He's kind of been on the back burner with some feuds, and so. With, like we mentioned, G1 season coming up, they're probably going to want Evil to look strong going into G1, being a former double champion. So he's probably going to get the win over Ishii here and then go on to have a decent G1 as far as record-wise.
But as far as everything goes with these shows, am I as excited as some of those Cork and Hall shows the past couple weeks with the 3rd generation dads against the Chaos 6-man team and all those singles matches and then the never 6-man tag title? No, I'm not as excited because I don't think there's as much content here, but it's kind of nice. You look at who's involved in these multi-man matches and you're getting returns in Taguchi and Rocky Romero and Robbie Eagle. So there's some fresh blood and excitement there. And then you're getting some of the top MVPs of the most recent tours. You're getting Cobb, Okada, Yoshihashi, Okan, Tanahashi, Ishii. So, there's a lot of really good stuff here, and some of the more, I won't badmouth anybody, but there's some names that are more, associated with lower quality matches, and they're kind of exempt from these cards. You're not seeing a lot of. Well, I guess I'll just say the names. Like, you're not seeing a lot of, Dick Togo and a lot of, God and a lot of that sort of shit on the show. So, the next 3 to 4 Summer Struggle Tour shows look pretty good. Plus, with several meaningful singles matches at the top of those shows, I think they all look pretty good.
Yeah, and I feel like the Tanahashi and Kenta match is going to be a very important match, kayfabe-wise, to what's next for both of those guys, because I feel like both of those guys have kind of been floating this year. Since Kenta lost to John Moxley, he's kind of been in flux, I feel, like, almost on the back burner, almost like with Evil. And Tanahashi, since losing the Never title, I feel has also kind of been on the back burner. And so I feel like this is kind of a big match, and see, like, whoever wins, I feel like they might be doing something with one of these guys going forward.
Possibly. As far as, like, do you mean, like, as far as, like, world title contention, or are you thinking more like the Never division?
Not necessarily world title, but definitely, like, maybe featured more going into another, like, bigger singles program. And maybe it is a shot at the Never. They could do that, or some other opportunity. Or also, there is a resurgence coming up. One of these guys could come to the U.S. Obviously, Kenta has history with Moxley. Doing Moxley versus Tanahashi would be a big match. Or maybe the winner is getting a U.S. title shot. Maybe, who knows?
And what's next for the loser? They get, like, pushed down to, like, Elevation.
Yeah, they go and face. I'm trying to think of somebody from Elevation. They go and face JD Drake on Elevation.
They gotta move. They gotta go to MLW, right?
No, they gotta go to Impact. They gotta face Violent by Design.
Yeah.
But let's talk about.
If you've ever been a renter, you know it's stressful to find a place with everything you love and nothing you don't. But did you know Zillow does rentals? It makes the search so easy. They have filters for pretty much everything, so you can find that place that's in your budget, but also isn't a shoebox. Or a place that's close to your parents, but far enough they have to call first. Plus, it's easy to apply, request tours, and pay rent in the app. Head to ZillowRentals.com and find your sweet spot.
The Wrestle Grand Slam card, which was also revealed. This is going to be on July 25th, and it's also going to be airing on Fight TV in English and in French for $19.99. But honestly,
fuck all that. I don't need English speaking commentary. I'll stick with the Japanese commentary. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, English will be on New Japan World for this show as well, so I don't know why.
No, they said it wouldn't be.
No, that's for Resurgence. It won't be for Wrestle Grand Slam.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm confusing these two shows.
So there will be English and Japanese on New Japan World for Wrestle Grand Slam, and then on Fight, English and French. But yes, I don't know why. If you want English, just get New Japan World for the 999 yen.
Well, I'll go down the card real quick. So we got some pretty exciting stuff here. Opening up the show, we got the New Japan Rambo Battle Royal for the KOPW 2021 trophy. It was sort of teased all week that there might be some added stipulations. It looks like fans will decide whether handcuffs or blindfolds will be used in the New Japan Rambo for the provisional KOPW 2021 title at New Japan Wrestle Grand Slam in Tokyo Dome. So, yeah, Toru Yano made this announcement in an interview on NJPW's website, and it looks like that's going to be the proposition, is whether handcuffs or blindfolds are going to be involved in this Rambo, which I'm not a big fan of this, Jeremy. I got to tell you.
Yeah, it sounds weird. So he says on the guardrails and the ropes will be handcuffs set up to use. Rambo, as normal, when you're pinned, submitted, or you're thrown over the top, you're out. But you can also be put out by being handcuffed, and then you're stuck there for the rest of the match. Completely humiliating, he says. And then he says if it's a blindfold, you put a blindfold on an opponent to eliminate them.
They actually had a match in I've actually seen a few different territory matches involving handcuffs. Plus, like, I feel like there was like a very specific era of like 2000, 2001 WCW, like Vince Russo era, where guys were getting handcuffed to the ropes all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been a couple Smoky Mountain and world class matches I've seen where to lose a match, guys get handcuffed, and then it's like, it'd be like team battles. Once the whole team was handcuffed, then the other team had like 5 minutes to just fuck them up as bad as they possibly could. So I don't know if that's how the Rambo's going to work, but, my whole thing is this. I absolutely love the New Japan Rambo. So the idea that they're going to, bastardize it with added stipulations, it's already a Rambo. Why the fuck are you doing this? Like, I understand. It was bad enough that they ended it, the last one back in January with the Final Four. Like, this was the 1997 Royal Rumble or some shit. And, now they're trying to turn it into a Smoky Mountain, like, stipulation. I don't like that.
Yeah, man. Well, the good thing is it's on the pre-show, so it won't be on the main card.
That's how you know it's not a real Tokyo Dome. They got a fake. Not only is it a fake Tokyo Dome, they got a fake ass Rambo to start the fake Tokyo Dome as well. Opening up the show proper, we have the IWGP Junior Tag Team titles: Taiji Ishimori and El Phantasmo versus Mega Coaches Rocky Romero and Ryusuke Taguchi. They made it onto the Dome show. Tomohiro Ishii can't make it on the show, but
sidelined.
Yeah, he's sidelined, but at least Taguchi's on this shit. You know what I'm saying? After that, the junior heavyweight title, El Desperado will be defending against the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles. And then Kazuchika Okada will be facing Jeff Cobb in a special singles. What's Gabe Sapolsky always call those matches? Special challenge match?
Yeah, special challenge, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, special challenge match. Okada, Handsome Battle 3. And then the semi-main event, the IWGP Tag Team titles are on the line as the LIJ team of Naito and Sonata defend against the former champions, the Dangerous Tekkers, Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. And then the main event, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Shingo Takagi will be defending against the former champion in Kota Ibushi. Pretty good show, top to bottom, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty good card. You have all the titles that are in Japan defended on the card. I know you mentioned Ishii and Tanahashi not being on here, but they probably felt like for those Osaka and Nagoya shows, I don't think they felt strong enough of having the junior tag title or the junior title match main event any one of those shows. And when you think Tokyo Dome, you normally think of all the titles being on the line. So I can understand why things are structured out that way. But on the main card, you have 5 solid matches here. We've seen some of these matches before, and they've been good. Despy and Eagles, they had a near 4-star match in the Super Juniors in December, which was really good. ELP and Taiji and the Mega Coaches, they have good chemistry. That should be good. Cobb and Okada should be a great match with the role Cobb is on now. We already saw Tekkers and LIJ. That was 4.25. So that should be a great semi-main. And then Shingo and Ibushi, we've seen them in the G1 4.5-star match. So that should be another it should be a killer main event.
Yeah, I agree. It's a weird feeling because when I look at the card top to bottom, it's a good card, and I'm like, this could even maybe be like, this might not have been bad for like, say, a Dominion, given the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, for the Tokyo Dome, like, I don't know. But we don't even know what's going to end up happening. I know they were only selling tickets until very recently, right?
Yeah, so that was a note I had here. So Tokyo is going under another state of emergency. And so due to that and restrictions on live events, they had to cut off the ticket sales on midnight on July 11th, Japan time. So we had like a similar situation, I believe, for Wrestle Kingdom or another bigger show this year where they had to kind of cut off selling tickets due to the state of emergency. So I'm not sure, haven't heard how many tickets were sold, but it's not probably as many as they were hoping for.
Yeah, this was something that was kind of bound to be inevitable when it comes to this show and their insistence to do it a Tokyo Dome show, we kind of discussed all of the possible pitfalls regarding this, and some of that seems to be playing out. And, I feel like it wasn't that long ago when we were on the show, we were like, hey, they've had a bunch of states of emergency. The freaking Olympics are coming up, and it seems like it just keeps getting worse and worse. I think I was on the show and I said they might want to have some sort of backup plan in place just in case. And it seems to be that has continued to play itself out. So, it is unfortunate. I'm not happy about it. Dave Meltzer, I was listening to him on Observer recently, and he was talking about the pandemic and this whole period. And he's like, the one company that was hurt the worst by the pandemic and continues to be is New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, definitely. Hands down.
Yeah. And I mean, we're seeing that play out, compared to where they were pre-pandemic versus where they are, the state of their business and everything like that afterwards. Nobody fell quite as far as they have. And although things are starting to kind of feel normal again for the first time in a while, it's still just like, man, they're trying to, I don't know, put on a Tokyo Dome show, and it doesn't, the card's good, and I'm glad for it because we haven't had something this consistently good in a while. Probably since January of this year, but at the same time, it's like, damn it, you got to book the Tokyo Dome to just get like a C+ level card from New Japan these days. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, they're breaking even right now. They're trying to get as many people as they can to shows, trying to do more bigger shows. And what we're seeing here with these, these Summer Struggle shows and Wrestle Grand Slam, these are shows that are back to back to back, and you could have probably put some of these bigger matches on one being card. Like if this was a normal Tokyo Dome, Evil and Ishii and Tanahashi and Kenta would probably be on this card. And if they didn't have
and then you're talking about a card that's like, wow, look at what they're doing. Like that, if you had all of that on the same show, I'd be like, holy shit.
Right. But yeah, with all these shows and them trying to, make a profit, yeah, it's hard to get a big stack card.
Any other quick thoughts that you have? I know we got a lot of questions on this topic.
Yeah, overall, I think it's a good card. I think we're going to get some very good to great matches on the card. I think it's the best I could do with the state of emergency, with doing a 5-match card and getting the titles there. I think all the matches have been built up pretty well here, and so it should be a very good show. That's
the one thing I'm noticing, too. The title matches for the upcoming shows and tours feel built for the first time. Aside from Shingo and Ibushi, which is not their fault because I'm sure that they would have been building towards that. Who knows how effectively, but they would have at least been building to it, provided he was on the shows. But other than that, everything else feels like, yeah, this feels familiar. It feels like, Gato and not like this weird Bizarro, World Gato that we've had for the past 6 months or year or so.
Yeah, maybe he's finally, cracked the notebook open again and started making plans.
I don't know, man. But we got some questions. MJ Does PR asked us. He says, Robbie Eagles makes one Zoom call, and then he's challenging for a title in the Tokyo Dome. What's up with that?
Hey, man. Robbie Eagles knows how New Japan works. He knows you have to be the first one out there to make a challenge. He couldn't physically be there, so got the file over, didn't say a name, just say, congratulations, champ, and he was ready to go. So, hey, smart man.
Here's the thing, I was thinking about that exact same thing, MJ Does PR. I was thinking about how the last time we saw this dude, he was in the Best of Super Juniors. He was, batting 500, and he was wrestling for the most part in the middle of the card. He didn't have too many main events or semi-main events, and he was very good, too great, but not in that upper echelon because they didn't give him enough opportunities. And I was like, man, he's kind of saddled as this upper second tier junior, but he doesn't really get too many of the big chances. And then suddenly he's in the fucking Tokyo Dome against Desperado. And I guess part of it's because we've already seen main events with Yo and Sho and, Ishimori and ELP, and it's like, and obviously there's no Hiromu, so it's like last man standing, Robbie Eagles.
They could have gone with Bushi.
Fuck that. But here's what it really comes down to, okay? And here's the difference between why a Master Wato isn't in the main event, or in the junior title match for the Tokyo Dome, and Robbie Eagles does, is it comes down to ingenuity, and it comes down to self-promotion. This man, Robbie Eagles, is not only out there working hard, but is putting together fire-ass content, showing himself doing cool shit. You remember, like, back in the 2000s, Jeremy? We didn't always have access to those ROH and, like, Chikara shows, but then you watch, like...
the music video things?
A music video?
Yes.
And you're like, holy shit. Holy shit. I've never seen wrestling like this in my entire life.
Yes. Especially, like, those early 2000s. Like, they do, like, those, like, weekly, like, music videos and recaps. I'm like, oh, my gosh, like...
And then you get a chance to actually watch the show, and you're like, this match was 3 1/4. Okay, I couldn't tell you right now. I'm sure there's a lot of content that we need to catch up with when it comes to Robbie Eagles and him being on, having excursion matches this year. But, I mean, I don't know how good he's actually... I mean, obviously he's great, but I don't know how awesome his matches have been and the work he's been doing. But you watch these promotional videos this man's putting together, he looks like one of the greatest juniors of all time. I don't see Wato out there putting out the best 15 moves of Master Wato on YouTube, okay?
No, that man's out in the forest trying to find his way to the Grand Master.
Yeah, I don't see Yoshinobu Kanemaru putting, comp videos of him set backdrop to Stained, okay? I don't see that shit going on, okay? There's a reason why Robbie Eagles is in the Tokyo Dome and, fucking, I don't know, Taguchi's not,
Right. Well, Taguchi is just in a tag role.
Whatever. Same shit.
Next question here from @TheRealMBraids on Twitter. Any idea why Tanahashi isn't on the Tokyo Dome card? I'm baffled, given the current state of business. Putting the Tana Kenta in the Dome as yet another marquee match seems obvious to me, but there it is on a Road 2 show. Am I missing something?
Well, that he's headlining the Sapporo show, right?
The Nagoya show. So yeah, it's not a Road 2 show yet. It's Summer Struggle in Nagoya, which is a pretty big show for them. It's like going to be like a B-level show. So like I mentioned, you needed something to main event there, and they didn't see the junior title match or the junior tag title match as main eventing. They also you need Okada for sure in the Dome, so that you couldn't do Okada and Cobb there. So.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like asking why isn't Randy Macho Man Savage on the card with Hulk Hogan in the A-Town in 1986, Well, someone's got to go draw in the Boston Garden, and it's going to be Honky Tonk and fucking Macho,
Right.
That's the deal. I mean, that's what it is. Someone had to draw Nagoya.
Right, yeah. So it's either that or, you put Okada there, but yeah, you need Okada in the quote-unquote A-Town, the A spot here. So that was it.
That's what it is. That's the wrestling business, kid.
Next set of questions here from Viking Payne says, are you guys surprised that Tanahashi isn't a part of the Dome show, or is that a sign that Ace will be making his way to America for resurgence?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I haven't really thought about him being on New Japan Strong too much or anything like that, but I mean, some of these dads coming over, I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if down the line, especially with live audiences and depending on how things play out on the upcoming, what's that show that we're going to called?
Resurgence.
Oh, yeah. With the Resurgence show, who knows? I mean, maybe someone like Tanahashi could like make their way to Japan, or to North America. I don't know.
Right, and Tanahashi is featured in the promotional video, but his name is not featured. They haven't announced him as a talent, so people have been speculating that he would be on the card. Like I was saying earlier, maybe if he beats Kenta here, Kenta was a former challenger this year. Maybe he beats Kenta, and that's his calling card to face Jon Moxley.
Well, I mean, you got to figure let's say hypothetically they are gearing Tanahashi up for something. Who knows what it is? We're talking about G1 being in September?
Yeah.
Got some time between now and then, and I mean, he clearly is sort of out of the never realm right now as far as Jay White goes, unless they're going to run that back. You could always heat him up, I guess, and get him prepared to drop an L to Shingo for the world title, but I don't see why. He's never held the red belt. John Moxley's always looking for a fresh dance partner. You could do some big business with fucking Tanahashi and John Moxley. What if they did John Moxley and Tanahashi at what's the next pay-per-view?
For AEW?
Yeah.
All Out in Labor Day weekend.
Now, before people shut me down on that, what if Kadani and Tony Khan have a deal worked out where a percentage of the gate and a percentage of the pay-per-view buys is paid out to New Japan in return for lending Tanahashi to AEW for All Out, and then you get that in the semi-main event spot for the IWGP US title. You get Tanahashi and Mox on AEW pay-per-view. That pay-per-view with that plus Kenny and Hangman would fucking kill.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. I'd be down for that. Obviously, we're seeing several U.S. offenses on AEW TV, so why not get a big match out of the Ace on U.S. pay-per-view against Moxley in a packed 10,000 plus arena.
I think there's plenty of reasons why not to, but if they're getting points on the pay-per-view, then it would be worth it.
Right. Yeah. So interesting if something like that happens, or if it ends up being on the Resurgence LA show.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We're gonna be there, so
yeah.
Flying all day Friday and Sunday.
Yeah, it's gonna be some long travel days. His second question, he says, it's surprising to see that Robbie Eagles is getting the big Tokyo Dome match. Do you guys think they're gonna use a spotlight for a big angle with Robbie to United Empire?
That's a cool idea. I wouldn't be opposed to it. In fact, I'd be excited if they did decide to do something like that. But I don't know that it's that surprising. I mean, undoubtedly, in my opinion, this would have to be Robbie Eagles' biggest match of his career, just given the stage,
Yeah.
I don't know that he's ever had a match of that caliber previously anywhere else, so that is a big deal. But he's also so good that I'm not surprised to see them put him in that position, because he's sort of like the guy that you can go to and trust to deliver whenever needed to be called upon,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It should be like we mentioned, in the Best Super Juniors, they had a really great matchup there. So this should be another great match here. Next question from Why Did You Do That, Bro? The Tokyo Dome card only has 5 matches on the main card, while the 2 Wrestle Kingdom 15 cards had 6 each. Do you think this is a good or bad thing?
Well, I mean, again, it is a Tokyo Dome show, but as you mentioned earlier, the ticketing is limited. It's hard to really kind of imagine what the environment's going to be like with, the state of emergency and everything like that. I don't know what to expect. So it's hard for me to say what they should or shouldn't be doing, because I'm not, from a business standpoint, in their shoes. As a fan, it may be good, it may be bad. It really depends on what they do with the time that they have available.
Right, that's another big thing with these state of emergencies. There has been restrictions on timing and having to end shows at a certain time. So maybe the 5 matches is only slotted. They only have 2.5 hours, and they have to be out, or 3 hours, whatever the time is. And so they're going to give Ibushi and Shingo time. They're going to give Okada and Cobb time, and so they want to give as much time as they can to some of these matches that they've been building. So that's what they have to do.
That's what they gotta do.
And then last question here from Dom Hui 101, which I think we've pretty much covered. Thoughts on the lineup for 725 Tokyo Dome show? Are you surprised that guys like Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kenta Evil, and Ishii being left off the card?
Seems like a lot of people are.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, yeah, especially Tanahashi. Yeah, you know, it's Tanahashi.
No, bro, especially Evil.
Yes, the formidable champ. Big shock there not seeing him in the dome, but yeah, you know, again, we've kind of broke it down. It's like they have all these big shows. They have to give the other towns these main events so they can draw, so they can hit their goal to have X amount of people in the building, so they continue to at least break even and maybe make some kind of profit. Well, I think that wraps it up. Any other final thoughts on Wrestle Grand Slam?
I'm excited for it. You know, even if there's flaws and things like that, this past year, the best shows that we saw from New Japan occurred in the Tokyo Dome. We know how New Japan in this, especially since the Bushiroad era, especially in the last 4 to 5 years, has really treated any event that they've hosted in the Tokyo Dome. I expect nothing less than excellence. So even if this is, you know, a 2015, 2016 Dominion level card, I'm expecting probably something higher than that, just given how revered the Tokyo Dome is and how this current roster and, you know, the talent level they possess and, you know, the sort of respect and reverence they have for that show. So it's probably going to be awesome, even if, you know, only 7,000, 6,000 people show up.
Right, yeah, I think all the guys are going to be motivated. They're going to try and kill it. And like I talked about last week with the, you know, the Grapple top 10 of the year so far, majority of that list was New Japan. And even in a clap crowd pandemic era, New Japan's still putting out some of the best matches in the world. And so you have some of the best wrestlers in the world on this card, and I think we're going to get some bangers.
I know we are. Bro, Okada and Cobb, come on.
Yeah, bro, just from the preview matches so far, that drop kick into the spin cycle, I can only imagine the sequences they're going to have for the singles match.
Yeah, I'm excited for it as well.
So let's move on over to New Japan Strong. So this past Friday, we had the Road to Tag Team Turbulence. Show opened up with Barrett Brown defeating the DKC. Interesting choice here. Obviously, DKC is still a young lion, but he's in the tag Turbulence, and Barrett Brown's not. So that was kind of weird.
Yeah, I watched this. I mean, for me, I just feel like the main thing is, like, I understand the idea of, like, the preview for Barrett Brown or whatever, but, you know, in DKC, but the main thing is, like, Barrett Brown is in the midst of, you said DKC is in the tournament, but Barrett Brown's not?
Right.
I don't think that's really the point. I think the point is that Barrett Brown was complaining earlier this year about him not being able to pick up wins, and then Adrian Quest sort of, you know, preferring himself in the glory of winning on his own versus the betterment of the team. And Barrett Brown sort of being delusional in that sense because they were still winning. And then he sort of aligned himself with Bateman now, and him and Bateman are not in the tournament, although in his mind they should be.
Right.
So, you know, it's not even obviously DKC's not going to win, because while we might have seen some of the LA Dojo Young Lions win, like, we're definitely not seeing these rookie Lions like Kevin Knight and DKC pick up wins, you know?
Right. And Barrett Brown did use the tights to get the win here, so there is some, you know, plausible deniability there. Like, oh, he, you know, if he didn't grab the tights, maybe DKC would have had a chance.
Yeah, and you know what? DKC was actually on a comeback when that happened, which also kind of continues that storyline that, like, Barrett Brown barely has enough to even beat the lowest of the low-level Lions in DKC. Everyone else on that roster beats DKC with at least their signature or a finisher. But, like, Barrett Brown had to do the 85 flare roll-up with the fucking tights to win, you know?
Yeah.
He beat him like his name was Barry Windham. And not the fucking DKC. Like, what does DKC mean, you know?
It's like Dylan Kyle something. It's like his initials for his actual name.
When I first started wrestling, I would go to the Santino Brothers, like, page on YouTube just to like study.
Yeah.
And he's like the guy that they beat up in all the like tutorials. It's true.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up.
Also, I thought that this was one of the better DKs. Not to say DKC hasn't been very good, but like every week he's coming along, man.
Yeah. So Dylan Kyle Cox is what DKC.
Gotcha.
We had a question last week asking, like, how do you feel about him, keeping, like, the gimmick name and having the long hair and not having, like, a traditional young lion route?
Nothing in the LA Dojo has been traditional. It's not the same, obviously.
Yeah. And I feel like since it's his initials, it's not that much of a gimmick name, so.
Nah, fuck all that. The moment that Shibata started letting those dudes show up with navy blue trunks, you knew right away, like, this shit was different. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and that was over a year ago.
Yeah, that was, Connors.
It's like almost 2 years ago. So, I mean, as soon as, like, these dudes were showing up in, like, navy blue, like they were Luthez or Bruno Sammartino, like, oh, shit. Like, this is not the same. Don't talk to me about a DKC or a fucking karate chop. Okay? Clark Connors was wearing blue.
Yeah, going off script there.
Going off the script,
So second match, we had a returning PJ Black, first time on Strong since December. He had an injury at the end of the year, making his comeback here. He answered Alex Coughlin's open challenge series that he's doing here. 9 minutes 33 seconds. PJ Black defeats Alex Coughlin.
Yeah, this really good. Really impressed with Alex Coughlin. I was super impressed with his match, the previous match in the series with Josh Alexander. This one with PJ Black was very good. I like PJ Black's new gear. And the only thing I was a little iffy on, PJ Black, they did a spot where they were doing wrist control and trading strikes, and then it led right into PJ Black picking him up, scooping him up, and hitting him with his whatever backdrop pendulum move that was. I've never seen it.
Yeah,
and it was like, in theory, it was cool, but the actual delivery of it was a little clunky.
Yeah, and I didn't know that was his new finish. I guess that he's been doing that in Ring of Honor, I guess, and I had no idea that was the finish.
I don't know, man. That looked like some shit that Matt like comes up with, on like a Thursday night, and then he's like, "Let me try this on you," and then you just gotta take it.
Yeah,
like that's what it looked like. He was like, I didn't know he's been using it in Ring of Honor either, but that's what it looked like to me. Is he's like, "Come over here, Alex. I'm gonna try this on you."
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna go over with this shit.
Then we had a very good main event here. The Walking Weapon returns Josh Alexander. He defeats our good friend Rocky Romero 11 minutes 51 seconds.
Yeah, very good main event. It's amazing that an 11-minute match between Josh Alexander and Rocky Romero ranks for me almost as high as, a nearly 30-minute IWGP Junior Heavyweight title main event with Desperado and Ishimori. So that kind of tells you how much I liked this match. I thought it was really good. And Josh Alexander delivers once again, and Rocky Romero delivers once again. Last year I voted for that dude as the MVP of NJP of USA, and like no one else did, but I feel like I was right. I feel like Rocky was the MVP last year, and like it's probably going to get some strong votes from me again this year.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument for him this year. He's had a lot of really good matches all on Strong, and just the work he's been doing outside of the promotion as well. Doing a lot of stuff here for the U.S. brand. Yeah, very good matchup here. Rocky tried, working on the arm of the bigger man, set up that arm bar that he does, and several points he was going for. His running Shiranui, couldn't get that throughout the match, and then Alexander was overpowering him. Alexander hit a beautiful Chaos Theory German suplex. Shout out to Doug Williams. That was a cool spot in the match. And then he was working for the ankle lock. And then eventually he ends up hitting the J Driller and puts Rocky away.
Yeah, I thought both guys had some great moments of selling. Rocky obviously selling the ankle lock. There's one moment where like he was barely in the ankle lock and it wasn't even fully applied. And then he's selling it like it's death afterwards. And obviously, he's trying to go for the straight armbar for the majority of the match. We've seen him beat, such luminaries as El Phantasmo with that in the past. And he's, trying to get it on Josh Alexander. But Josh Alexander goes for the double underhook pile driver later in the match. He can't get it. So, again, another match where two guys are working body parts similar to Desperado and Ishimori, which, again, I like that match a lot. But in 11 minutes, these guys told, in my opinion, a far more effective, hard-hitting, and compelling matchup in front of an empty studio.
In front of just Kevin Kelly and what's his name?
Shitty commentator.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Alex Kozlov.
Yeah, Kozlov. Yeah.
So yeah, I should. You know what? I should take that back. That was mean. He's actually been doing better.
Yeah, he's fine.
I wouldn't go that far. He's all right. But yeah, so Josh Alexander eventually did hit the double underhook pile driver, which is an incredible move, by the way, and picks up the win against Rocky. I don't know if they're still going with that redemption story for Rocky, but this was good.
Yeah, and Josh Alexander seems like he's planning to be on Strong more, so that's just another great addition to the roster.
Bro, isn't it funny how all these dudes think they're all getting loaned to New Japan? Your Brody Kings, your Josh Alexanders, guys from ROH and Impact, and MLW guys fucking Filthy. And it's obviously we don't know the full status of their contract, so I'm not going to assume that I know anything. But it's funny that when they get to New Japan Strong, they're like, I'm here to fucking stay. This is the top place to be. And it's dude, you're on loan from MLW. Court Bauer is allowing you to be here. Fuck Court Bauer. That place sucks.
Yeah, Josh Alexander, you're the X Division champion right now. He's
yeah, he's the X Division champion. He's it took me years to get here.
It's New Japan, this is where I want to be. This is the best wrestling promotion in the world.
Yeah, it's so funny, dude. They don't actively bury their companies, but they passively bury their companies by being this is the real place to be.
This is that real.
It's just funny.
Well, this week we have the start of the Tag Team Turbulence Tour. The tournament starting this Friday. We have all 4 first-round matches on Friday, so we'll do some predictions here. So opening up, we got Clark Connors and TJP taking on the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. There was a Twitter video going out kind of teasing the dissension between Clark Connors and TJP, and we've been seeing that all throughout Strong. The more they team, the more miscommunication we see between both of those guys.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned previous weeks that I have no idea what's really going to end up happening here, so I'm just going to shoot from the hips. Good Brothers winning this shit.
Yeah, I'll go with Good Brothers from the first matchup, and then second we have Kevin Knight and the DKC against the West Coast Wrecking Crew of Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs. I think it's pretty.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the two dudes that dress in the same attire, Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs.
I mean, technically, Kevin Knight and the DKC dress in the same attire.
Nah, it's different. One of them is allowed to have wrist tape, the other one's not. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's pretty clear. Yeah, West Coast Wrecking Crew is going to win that. Then the semi-main event, we will have Freddie Yehai and Wheeler Utah taking on the team of Ren Narita and Yuji Nagata.
Oh, this is an interesting one. I'm going with the New Japan team of Ren Narita and Yuji Nagata on this one.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to go Narita, Nagata. I think they gave Yehai and Utah a lot of wins to make them look credible, but I think Narita and Yuji are going to get the win here.
Fourth match and probably main event, I'm assuming. Violence Unlimited team of Brody King and Chris Dickinson will be taking on the Team Filthy team of Danny Limelight and JR Kratos.
Yeah, this should be a pretty good matchup here. I think I'm going to go with Violence Unlimited. the new Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, and I think it makes a lot of sense story wise. And then you can get Dickinson and Narita in a match again when you'll have Narita and Yuji against Brody and Dickinson.
That's the exact situation I booked out. So, it looks like you and I are in a agreement here on all fronts. So, we are anticipating a Good Brothers versus West Coast Wrecking Crew semi-main event, as well as a Narita Yuji Nagata versus Violence Unlimited semi-main event.
Yeah, so should be a good episode of Strong. Should be a good tournament. And then last thing here to talk about on Strong, we have the date for the next Strong Openweight Championship match. Filthy Tom Waller will defend against the leader of the Bread Club, Satoshi Kojima, on Friday, July 23rd, which I believe is going to be the finals of the Tag Team Turbulence Tour. So big show there. You'll have the tournament finals and then Filthy Tom defending against Kojima.
Yeah, nice. I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah. It's the summer of cozy, baby.
Yeah, the other week, I know last week you touched on the fact that he beat Hiroki Goto recently. Thinking of the fact that he had a big title match on the Rise should have been kind of the giveaway that he might have been the one to win in that 3-match series.
Yeah. So let's move on to the news here. A couple of news items here. So first thing, Jon Moxley is going to be defending the IWGP US title against Carl Anderson this week on AEW Dynamite. An interesting thing here, this was revealed in interviews that the 2020 Wrestle Kingdom, the original plan was supposed to be Jon Moxley versus Carl Anderson, and it was said that Anderson was going to beat Moxley for the U.S. title, and Anderson and Gallows had agreed to return to Japan after the WWE contracts were expiring, and they were supposed to jump the Young Bucks on the first episode of Dynamite, but then WWE upped their offer to a 5-year deal at $750 per year, and they took that deal, which scrapped the whole Dynamite plans and scrapped the Moxley Anderson match at Wrestle Kingdom. We got Moxley and Archer instead. So what do you think about this matchup here, Anderson and Mox for the U.S. title?
I mean, it's fine. I don't really care, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting matchup. I'm not expecting a title change here.
I mean, if I was AEW and I was trying to book a match with someone that is tied to AEW, but also has ties to New Japan and is a credible singles guy, I'd probably pick Carl Anderson as well. So from that aspect, that makes sense. As opposed to picking someone that's been built up on, New Japan television, but is foreign to the fan base of AEW. Keep in mind, it's going to be airing on Dynamite, so they're still trying to, it is still an AEW match with a little bit of a New Japan flavor. And then, I've heard some New Japan fans that were really excited about this. I'm not really one of them just because, Carl Anderson's, top singles runs were in 2012, 2013, before that. So, that was a long time ago.
Right,
so
it's been a long time since that G1's. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, I'm not that stoked about it. I think it will be good, but I'm not anticipating it to be great or anything. If it is, awesome. I really hope Carl Anderson does not win. Okay? I've heard some people say they want him to win. I don't see why you would want that. I would much rather have the biggest star in the West named Jon Moxley to carry the belt versus one half of the Good Brothers,
Right, and especially with Resurgence coming up and Moxley advertised for that, I really think you should do a Moxley U.S. defense on that show.
Well, you want to know what my fear and suspicion is when it comes to this, right?
Yeah, this is building to Mox and Shooter against the Good Brothers.
I've got a feeling that Shota Umino could. I don't know if the logistics work out. I know he was just working in Rev Pro, but what if hypothetically through this feud, whether it's on this episode or episode in the future, Shota Umino becomes involved in a good, because again, it is Carl Anderson and he is in a prominent tag team that's also being featured in New Japan. What if they're trying, and we already know that New Japan was planning to reunite the Death Riders and have Shota Umino team with Jon Moxley on Strong in the past. What if the big match that they have planned for him coming up on the LA show is Good Brothers versus, the Death Riders? And that's a match that, isn't the biggest money match in the world. I can see Tony Khan being okay with it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For the talent exchange. I got a feeling that that's what's on the docket based on looking at the trajectory of this match. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that probably makes the most sense. I mean, Moxley has been feuding with the Good Brothers and Kenny and the Bucks, the AEW Bullet Club for, most of this year now. So it kind of coincides with AEW storyline as well. Good Brothers coming back to New Japan. So it could happen. Again, not the most exciting thing you could do. I still think they should try and do a U.S. title defense. But, like you said, Tony Khan's probably like, yeah, you guys can have Moxley. But put him in a tag team match.
Yeah, save those U.S. title matches for Dynamite.
Right, yeah. So, we had a question from Donovan 101. I think we got most of everything. Thoughts on the upcoming IWGP US Heavyweight title match between Moxley and Carl Anderson on Dynamite. How likely or unlikely is it that we see Carl Anderson walk at us Dynamite as a champ? Who do you guys think will be the next challenger for the IWGP US Championship?
I have no idea who the next challenger is. I mean, if they're booking it if they're booking the U.S. title the way that they used to book the Intercontinental title with Nakamura, we'll see Doc Gallows challenge afterwards.
Oh man!
What do you think the likelihood Carl Anderson could beat him is? Is that something you could see happening?
No, I think it's very low. At the end of the day, it's Carl Anderson, who, to my knowledge, is not an AEW contracted wrestler. He's still an Impact contracted wrestler showing up on AEW, going against the top babyface in AEW, former AEW World Champion. I highly doubt Tony Khan is going to beat Jon Moxley with Carl Anderson.
Yeah, who fucking knows?
I would be very surprised if they flip the belts. As far as next challenger, like we were saying, I don't know. I got a feeling that Kenta Tanahashi match could be a match that leads to a challenger for Moxley.
Very possible.
The next thing here, we have dates for this year's G1 Climax tournament. The tournament will be starting September 18th in Osaka, with the finals taking place on October 21st at Budokan Hall. The Wrestling Observer reports that everyone in the tournament has been told already, and some of those foreign names will be staying in Japan for as long as 4 months, so they don't have to quarantine each time in between dates. The only other major news of the schedule is that historically the shows have ended with 3 straight dates, usually in Sumo Hall in Tokyo or sometimes the Budokan Hall. This year, the final 3 dates start on October 18th at the Yokohama Budokan, the same building formerly known as the Bunka Gym, and was traditionally the last show of the tournament before the big 3 nights. So the Paris Yokohama is going to get the A block finals, while Budokan Hall is listed for the B block finals and then the overall finals on October 21st.
And I will watch when it happens.
Oh yeah, G1 should be another fire tournament this year. Next thing here, we have an update on Resurgence ticket sales. As of the last report from WrestleTix, right now there are 431 available tickets with a capacity of 2,252, meaning 1,822 tickets have been distributed. So the show is about 81% sold. So last weekend, I talked about the initial ticket sales, about 70% on the first day being sold. So we got an additional 11% this week. What are your thoughts on the Resurgence ticket sales?
I think it's not bad considering that it's a limited capacity arrangement in what's this called? It's called the
the torch.
Yeah, the torch at the LA Coliseum. So, they kind of have a selective seating there. We've seen them be a little bit more optimistic or like ambitious than this with like say the Walter Pyramid in the past and kind of underdraw. So, the numbers look good. I'm sure from a business standpoint, they must be happy that they've had some interest in the early days here. I mean, this is a far cry from where the ticket sales kind of stood back in say 2017 when they first started doing U.S. shows, but we're in a different market at this point with a lot more competition, a lot more saturation in the marketplace. So I think all things considered, it's pretty good, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get near sellout come show time.
Right. And also last week we had the announcement of Jay White defending the Never title against David Finlay on this show. Thoughts on that matchup?
I thought you did a great job recapping it last week. I don't want to belabor it too much, but those two guys have a lot of history, so that should be very good. That's another thing to kind of keep into consideration. Is like there's only 400 plus tickets left, and we barely have a card. So as more and more enticing matches kind of become known, that's another indicator that these tickets probably will not be around for much longer. They did talk in the past about if there's a need, they could hypothetically expand the seating arrangement. So, I don't think it will ever turn into something where people absolutely can't get tickets, but I think a lot of that will depend on what the card looks like. I'm wondering if that's the one big match and then everything else that's on the show, even though the talent looks great, is sort of limited, or if they kind of try to push the envelope and give us some more, bangers along the way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that card looks like, and probably they might use Strong to build some of that, so maybe that's why some of that's not announced yet, but...
Oh, that's a good... Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Like, I have a feeling like probably at least a Strong title match for sure should be booked, will probably be built off of this weekly TV.
Well, I think Punk versus Filthy is going to be really good when we go to the Torch at LA Coliseum.
Punk versus... Oh, man. That would be crazy. CM Punk showing up.
Actually, we're going to get a three-way. It's going to be Hero, Punk. When Hero met Punk, met Filthy.
So next thing here in the news, Token Shop Global, they're doing another meet and greet. This time it's with Kenta, and that's happening on July 27th. Then this past weekend, there was the Ring of Honor Best in the World pay-per-view featuring some New Japan adjacent guys. So in the main event, we had the former Best of Super Junior competitor Bandito defeating Roosh to become the new ROH World Champion. We had former IWGP Junior Champ Dragon Lee defeating Tony Deppen to regain the ROH TV title. We had Team Filthy's and former Team Filthy and Violence Unlimited. Chris Dickinson teaming up with Homicide. They defeated Rhett Titus and Jonathan Gresham, who was replacing Lethal. They won the tag team titles. And then Brody King defeated Jay Lethal. Absolutely destroyed this man. So overall, the Best in the World pay-per-view was a pretty good show for Ring of Honor. All these matches here that I listed were in the 4-star range and some really good stuff.
I did not get a chance to watch let me scratch that. I had a chance to watch the show, and I chose to watch a movie instead. But with that being said, I heard some good reports, so I'm pretty excited about a lot of, Bandito. He now holds the ROH as well as PWG world titles simultaneously. I in my estimation, over the last 20 years, those are probably the two most prestigious U.S. independent championships. And at this point, Ring of Honor might as well not even be a national company anymore. They might as well be back to indie status. So, in my opinion, Bandito is the unified independent world champion.
Yeah, Bandito killing it here. Yeah, really good main event there with Roosh.
It's going to be interesting when he comes back to Best of Super Juniors and does a job to Taguchi, though.
This means Taguchi gets a title shot at Honor Rising.
Maybe.
And then last two things here, I think we talked about last week, but just want to get your quick thoughts. Did you get to check out Show's Glate match?
I have not gotten a chance to check it out. I heard your recap of it last week. I thought it was very good. It will be something that I see here in the near future, but these past couple of weeks have been pretty crazy with work and the hurricane and everything. Yeah.
And then last thing here, we had some updates on Shota Umino. He's going to be facing Dan Maloney on the 18th in Rev Pro, and then August 21st, he's getting a Southside Heavyweight Championship match against Ricky Knight Jr. Any thoughts on the reemergence of Umino and kind of these two big matches here?
I like Ricky Knight Jr. a lot. Cousin of Paige Saraya, from WWE. What was her name? Brittany Knight?
Saraya Knight, I think.
Saraya Knight, Brittany Knight. No, her mom's Saraya Knight. She's Brittany Knight.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Ricky Knight Jr. had a really fantastic feud and match with Will Ospreay at the end of last year, beginning of this year. If you haven't seen that match, I highly recommend it. Shota Umino, it's very clear that they're putting him in a prominent position. A few of the guys that have been put in prominent positions on their excursions in the recent past, Hiromu Takahashi, when he was contending for world titles in CMLL, and most recently Great-O-Khan, given some opportunities to win some regional titles over in Europe, and then also the tag team titles in Rev Pro. So you're kind of seeing something similar here with Shota Umino, and they're giving him a spotlight. They're giving him a push, an opportunity, and they're putting him in there with two of the best guys in the company, Dan Maloney and Ricky Knight Jr. And that's what it's all about: is getting reps, getting experience in front of the crowd, learning how to work that style. And it seems like they're trying to get him ready to work a main event style. It kind of reminds me a little bit of what they did with Keiji Muto when he was in Championship Wrestling from Florida and Jim Crockett Promotions in the late 80s.
Yeah, should be good stuff. There should be two good matches there with Ricky Knight Jr., Dan Maloney, and yeah, I'm really excited to see things to come for Umino. Also, he's going to be featured on Resurgence and Strong, so I feel like he's probably bouncing back and forth between the U.S. and the U.K. for his excursion.
Great. Well, it looks like we got some questions to go through. There was a bunch of fight questions last week. Did you bump those this week or not?
I think I put them in there at the bottom.
Okay, yeah. We didn't talk before the show, so I was like, are we saying we're going to answer those questions or fuck you guys?
Yeah, I think I have them on there. Yeah, we'll run through these. So first from Rambo and Slam Pig, he says, what is your way too early mid-year prediction for the Wrestle Kingdom Night 1 main event? He's guessing Okada wins the G1 and faces Shingo, taking the belt off of him.
I don't know, man. I usually have some kind of solid prediction by this point. I'm still, I think, kind of picking Naito as my likely winner. And maybe Naito Shingo. But I don't really... Also, Jay White's on the docket, too.
Right.
He's never won a G1, so I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like Naito Shingo for right now is a way too early. I think probably makes the most sense and is probably a really big matchup that would draw for night 1 or whatever night they do it on. Next question here from Viking Pain. With the elevations of the Never titles, 6-man titles, and heavyweight tag titles, was it the right call to retire the IC title after all?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just feel like having that secondary, I know the Never title's quote unquote the secondary title right now, but I don't know. Just feel like the IC title really helped with that transition and having other programs for people.
I mean, I almost feel like in a certain sense it would have been better to just be like, we don't have an IC title anymore, but we have the international title. It almost would have made sense for them to establish a new secondary title, something that nobody's won, as opposed to the belt that a lot of people have won, but when they won it, it meant a lot less, and now they have nowhere to go. Your Gotos, your Ishiis, guys like that, your Minoru Suzuki's. It means in a certain sense, sure. If they won it, would it mean more because of its stature in the company? Sure, but it also kind of means less because they've already held it, and it was the number 3, number 4 belt in the company when they won it. So it just puts people in a weird spot. I'll never understand why they got rid of the white belt. If you have to elevate other belts to get to the status of the belt that you got rid of, then you shouldn't have gotten rid of that belt.
Yeah.
It just doesn't actually make sense from a logical standpoint. Think about it for a second. Why do we have to elevate other belts to get to the same status? And to be clear, none of these belts are to the same status that belt was, because it was headlining Tokyo Domes.
Right, yeah, I don't think we're going to see any, never titles, 6-man titles, or tag titles, main eventing a dome anytime soon.
Yeah, it was a bad idea. Honestly, it just was.
His next question is, sadly, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff has passed away. Any great memories from his career? I know he spent some time in New Japan as well.
Yeah, I don't have any specific memories of Paul Orndorff in New Japan, to be honest with you. But from his career, I mean, as a fan watching live, I didn't necessarily, Paul Orndorff wasn't like a mainstream guy by the time that I was like a child,
Right, yeah, same here.
But as someone growing up and having a family that had been watching since the early 80s and kind of getting exposed to some of that stuff on tape and everything, I mean, the one thing that sticks out more than anything else is the 2 feuds he had with Hulk Hogan. And I mean, the big thing with Paul Orndorff, and it's always going to be a testament to him and the star drawing ability that he had with Hulk Hogan, they literally had the absolute most financially successful string of house show matches ever in the history of professional wrestling. No other string of house shows ever drew as much money for any company ever at any time in the history of the world as when Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff were on top running against each other, which is a true testament. Some memories I do have, I always get this messed up. There's a really crazy match with him, and I think it's him and either Van Hammer or him and Cactus Jack from one of the Clash of the Champions. That's like a Falls Count Anywhere match. That is hard hitting as shit. It's like one of the last really great Paul Orndorff matches. But, for me, the main thing I remember is the Hulk Hogan feud. The Saturday Night's Main Event cage match, which is gold and super underrated. I mean, incredibly underrated. And him coming out to Real American because he's the real American. Like, I love that shit. Paul Orndorff was great, man.
Yeah, I don't really have that many memories from him. Growing up, he wasn't really a guy that kind of stuck out to me. He's probably kind of being phased out by the time I was, watching. And I know it's not been a guy that I've gone back and watched stuff on, but I've been seeing a lot of people post a lot of his great matches and promos. So I'm definitely going to go back and watch some of his stuff.
Next question. Has Young Boy ever been thrown into an exposed turnbuckle before? Is it really exposed steel? How do you protect yourself from something like that? And does it hurt? Also, is the edge of the ring really the hardest part of the ring? So I guess to answer a couple things, I have never been thrown into exposed steel. As far as the turnbuckle is concerned, there have been some phases where we've had some pretty suspect turnbuckle pads, and sometimes they don't always do the best job staying in place, and sometimes the buckle will become exposed, but I've never hit one. I don't know how to answer this, to be honest with you. Like, I don't want to
expose the business.
I don't know if I'd call it. Okay, so here's my thinking. I've never taken one, so I think there's definitely a way to where if you took it in a particular traditional way, you could probably hurt yourself because it's exposed metal, and maybe that is just what people do, is they just hit it as hard as they can and just throw caution to the wind. But I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong on this because again, I've never done it. Keep in mind. I feel like if you hit the ropes in the perfect spot, like where your back, especially if you're a broad back person, you won't go far back enough to actually hit the metal. You'll just hit the two ropes and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be super precise with that. It depends on how you place your feet and where your arm placement on the ropes is when you do it. But then again, I also think like there's a small margin for error. If you're running hard and you take it hard, you're probably going to hit the metal. I can imagine that fucking sucking. So I don't know.
Well, maybe one day Matt will throw you into the turnbuckles.
I'll ask them. I don't know. We'll see next time I go to class. As far as the ring apron being the hardest part of the ring, it absolutely is. And I mean, it's very logical why. When you hit a ring, whether it's springs or boards, the motion of the impact needs to have space to dissipate and travel out. That's the whole logic of wrestling. But if you hit the edge of the ring where the boards are, there's the motion it doesn't fucking go anywhere. It's the same. It's almost the same thing as hitting the ground, bro. When they take bumps in the ground, you're hitting the actual earth. You're hitting the earth. That motion doesn't fucking go anywhere. Bro, that's the craziest thing. Like, I might want to be a pro wrestler, but I want to be the kind of pro wrestler that wrestles in the ring. Okay, I don't want to take no bumps outside. Fuck that shit.
You're trying to live that Zack Sabre life.
Not even that. He goes outside and I'm trying to live that Akira Maeda life,
His last question. He says, "How did Conor McGregor break his leg?" Poirier said it was from a check, and Conor said it wasn't from a check. And is Conor done as a UFC fighter, or will this lead to a McGregor Poirier 4?
I don't know, man. I noticed at the end of the round something went wrong with his leg, and I suspected maybe he dislocated it or rolled his ankle. I didn't realize it fucking snapped his tibia. But I knew something was wrong. How it happened, I couldn't tell you, man. I don't know. Was it from a check? Maybe. There's some reports coming out now that he actually had, a known ankle injury in camp and didn't disclose it prior to the fight, which is plausible because that's what happens in a lot of fights, especially when there's a lot of money involved. So that's plausible too. It's also possible that he just stepped weird and his fucking ankle broke. I don't know, man. I don't think either of them know. As far as whether they'll fight again, they're both talking like they want to fight again, and I think they both want to get paid again.
Right. Yeah, I saw the payouts for that show. They both obviously Conor got paid really well, and Poirier did pretty well for himself there. I did see like a slow motion video going around of when Poirier checked the kick, and I mean, obviously you can't really know for sure, but like it does look.
You don't know.
It does look like it could have happened there, but who knows? As far as there being a 4th fight, I mean, that's what it sounds like. I mean, Dana White is saying that, Poirier is getting a title shot against Usman next. And
no.
Not Usman?
Okay.
What's his name?
Oliveira.
Yeah, Oliveira. That's what I mean. Yeah, he's getting a shot against Oliveira. And then the winner of that would probably face McGregor. So also in a perfect world, Poirier would win the title. McGregor would come back, and you'd have a 4th match for the title.
Nah, bro. In a perfect world, it would be based on the best fighting the best and be a sport. Instead, you're getting guys that are personalities. Did you see the press conference?
I saw like highlights from it. I didn't watch the whole thing.
Did you see the dude with the pink suit?
Yeah.
He came out and he's like, Connor, you have won exactly one fight since Barack Obama was president. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, dude, how can a guy that has won one fight in like, 4, 5, 6 years?
Yeah.
Be in line for the next title shot, provided Poirier wins the title. And dude, I don't even know if Poirier is going to beat Oliveira, but that's another story. So I don't know. That's not a perfect world to me, but I don't care. I like Conor. Well, okay, I'm not a big Conor fan, but I appreciate his talent and what he's accomplished and given to the sport. But I mean, he's not done. He's the biggest star in the history of the sport, and I think he's starting to gain a little bit of a Mike Tyson freak show fight appeal. But I don't really care about him.
Yeah.
Plus, he's probably a rapist.
Yikes, yeah. So moving on to questions from Hawaiian Punch BV. He says, what do you think about Malachi Black expressing his desire to wrestle for NJPW? Are you more or less excited about seeing his new AEW look?
I only want to see him in New Japan if he decides to bring over sorcery, black magic lore. I want to see esoteric occultism in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I'm hoping he brings some Aleister Crowley shit into Cork and all,
Do you want to see him murder people like he did in his promo video?
Only if it's sacrificial, to the Dark Lords.
I'd be fine with Malachi Black coming to New Japan as long as it's kind of the deal that's happening in AEW where, like, Tony Khan is kind of, being the guy to kind of rein him in. And so if we could have somebody to rein him in New Japan and just let him wrestle and not worry about trying to do lore and, kill his opponents, then I'd be down.
Nah, I'm on the opposite spectrum. If he doesn't bring that shit, don't come. Don't bother coming here.
Oh, man. His other question, what are your thoughts on the trilogy fight between Poirier and McGregor? Also, what do you think about McGregor's post-fight antics? How creepy do you think he's being by threatening to murder Dustin and Julie Poirier in their sleep and also posting a picture of their daughter on Twitter?
I don't know, man. Maybe it's creepy. Yeah, it's creepy, I guess. But it's like, I don't know. Connor's done some pretty bad shit in the past with his opponents and bad-mouthing their wives, bad-mouthing their religions, bad-mouthing their children and their dirty laundry and everything like that. It's nothing new for him. The main thing is he didn't seem to be able to shake Poirier or get under his skin really the way that he done to so many people in the past. I mean, you look back at some of his other fights and like Aldo and Alvarez and these guys were like shook, and I don't know. It just didn't seem like it worked against Poirier. I don't know. McGregor is still a good, entertaining like trash talker, but I don't know, man. He doesn't seem to have like the same like punch and effect from a verbal standpoint that he did like a couple years ago. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he's kind of like grasping for straws here, but
right.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, yeah, definitely like posting like, the picture of the daughter and just, it's just kind of over the top. And I think he's just trying to, keep himself in the news and
he's a worker.
Yeah, keep buzz around his name.
As far as the fight goes, I actually picked McGregor to win. My thinking, honestly, was just like under the bright lights in the big environment, someone who has proven time and time again to be capable of overcoming the odds and rising, to the circumstances. That's Conor McGregor. And that left hand of his, say what you will about him, it's the most proven and effective, weapon in MMA since like Dan Henderson's right hand. So I kind of thought, I knew it was a 50-50 fight going in, and I kind of thought that he might have a really good chance, especially considering how well he did in the second fight before the calf kicks landed. And he came out and he did okay, but he didn't seem to be as sharp or as good as he was in the second fight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought like the first, like he got some good leg kicks at the beginning, like the first like beginning part of the round. I was like, all right, maybe you got a game plan looking good here, but then after that, I just feel like it was all Dustin after that.
Yeah, and the biggest mistake was when he pulled guard and he went and he committed to the
guillotine.
the guillotine, and I don't know, man. Like, it looked to me like he was, he got hit a couple times and he was panic grappling, and we saw him do something similar like that in the first Nate Diaz fight when he lost. So I don't know. Yeah, he was getting smashed. So, I mean, could he have come back in the second or third round? Yeah, he could have. We've seen him catch a second breath before in previous fights, most notably the second Nate Diaz fight. So it's not unimaginable that if, with a guy like him that's got, fast twitch reflexes, it's not impossible that he could have recouped. But I don't know. Dustin Poirier looked like he was kind of murking him. So
yeah, he was on him. Next question from Grumpy Dog. This was a question from last week. I was curious to see if you had any info on it. He said another podcast mentioned Sabu winning the junior heavyweight title in '95 and then cutting a promo rejecting the title because he doesn't consider himself a junior. This was apparently a shoot, but they didn't elaborate. Have you heard of this, and what's the real story?
I've never really heard that story, to be honest with you. I know that's weird, but what was the deal? He won it and then vacated it?
Yeah, I guess he won it and then it's like he dropped it because he didn't consider himself a junior. Like I haven't heard it in it, and I didn't get a chance to look it up from last week. So I was wondering if you had any info on it.
No, I heard this question on the show last week, and I wish I would have done some research. But yeah, to be honest with you, I've never heard of that. I don't know the story. I did know he was like a junior heavyweight champion briefly, but I don't know anything beyond that.
So the next question from Dom Holy 101 was also from last week. He says, "Can the young boy explain why Rey Mysterio and Psychosis weren't a part of the '95 Super J Cup?"
Well, before I go into that, to go back, Sabu defeated Koji Kanemoto at the Fukuoka Dome on May 3rd. That's obviously Dantaku, 1995 to win the title. And then he lost it to Koji Kanemoto on June 14th, in a bout where Kanemoto's UWA World Welterweight Championship title was on the line as well. So, I don't know. He held it for a little over a month, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. So, I don't know the rest of that story.
Yeah, maybe it was one of those deals like in the backstage comments. He said something like that, but was actually still a champion.
As far as the Rey Mysterio Psychosis thing goes, that one I don't have a specific answer to. I feel like I've heard talk of this in the past, but I'm just kind of going to speculate what I remember or what my memory recalls. I think the deal was that this was like a special, sort of traveling match. Psychosis and Ray, they were kind of doing their shtick all over the world.
Yeah.
Sort of similar to what Dragon Lee and Hiromu Takahashi were doing a couple years ago as well, because it was such a legendary feud. And so they weren't like booked for the tournament, but they wanted to get them on the show because it was such like a renowned match that they sort of added them as like a special singles match, and it sort of fit the theme of the event. But I don't think they were ever intended to be part of J Cup 95. I think that was already kind of settled.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. Next question, also from last week, with recent news about Terry Funk. What are your favorite matches of Terry Funk in Japan?
Oh man, that's a great question. With Terry Funk in Japan, I mean, for me, it really comes down to, I guess, two different phases. I mean, there's Terry Funk in All Japan and the matches that he had with, obviously some of his single stuff, but especially his tag team matches with him and his brother. And then there's, from like 93 on, Terry Funk and in his deathmatch persona in FMW and IWA, most notably. Some of the matches that I really love that come to mind would be like Onita versus Terry Funk from FMW on May 5th, 1993. That's the no rope exploded barbed wire time bomb death match. That's, in my opinion, probably one of, if not the best time bomb death match. It's up there. I also think of his NWA title defense in 1976 in All Japan against Jumbo. Best 2 out of 3 falls. I think Jumbo is one of the best Japanese title challengers around that time period. And that match is incredible. Aside from him and Stan Hansen in '83 when Hansen had jumped from from New Japan to All Japan, they have a really, really great singles match. And then all the finals from the All Japan tag tournaments from around that period. So him and Dory against Abdullah and the Sheik in '79. Those two against Baba and Jumbo in 1980. That's like a 46-minute classic. The Funk Brothers against Stan Hansen and Terry Gordy in '83. I think that's the first Terry Funk retirement match, which is very memorable. But there's also the '81 final, which I think is Bruiser Brody and Jimmy Snuka against Dory Funk and Terry Funk. And that's the match where Stan Hansen comes out with them. And nobody knew that he had left New Japan, and it was like a big fucking deal. And then he throws the lariat on the outside, laying out, I believe, Terry Funk. I could be wrong. Maybe it's Dory. I don't remember. I've seen the match like 2 or 3 times. And people fucking lost their shit. And there's a blade job. And that was the match that started the whole Hansen and Brody against Funk Brothers feud, which was a big, big deal in the early days. Bruiser Brody and Terry Funk is really good as well from '82. There's a lot of good stuff. A lot of Western fans don't know how good the Funk Brothers were. I love the Funk Brothers. And then obviously, last thing I'll say about Japan is Dory Funk against Terry Funk is very good as well. There's so much out there, man. But the feud with Terry Funk and Mick Foley, they had 2 very memorable IWA matches that were death matches as well.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, also Foley, him and Foley had some great stuff in Japan.
Yeah, I was listening to the show last week, and I was like, I know you've seen some of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know why I wasn't thinking that was in Japan, but yeah, definitely, I forgot all about that.
I don't think a lot of fans realize how big of a star Terry Funk was in Japan. He was the biggest star. Before Terry Funk, generally speaking, most foreigners were viewed in Japan as being, gaijin, the outsider, the invader. They were never seen as, we've adopted them as one of our own. And to give you an example, the most recent maybe example of something akin to this is the latter years of Kenny Omega in New Japan. It's yes, he is an outsider, but he speaks our language. He embraces our culture. He's one of ours. That's how Terry and Dory Funk, but more specifically, Terry Funk was viewed in Japan. He wasn't a monster. He wasn't, a kaiju Gordy and Hansen. It was Terry Funk was one of theirs. He traveled with the Japanese guys. And it's hard to explain how fucking over he was. When he would come out in those All Japan crowds, it was just Daddy, 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 thousands and thousands of people just fucking screaming. And even before his music came on, because they were so hyped that the Funks were coming out. He was the man. Yeah, Terry Funk. In my opinion, Terry Funk is a top 5 all-time great.
Yeah, I definitely had to go back and watch some of his Japan stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really, really good stuff, and it still holds up too. And it's him at the tail end of his prime as well. So yeah, the All Japan, the mid to late 70s to early 80s stuff is that All Japan stuff's really, and that's also an unheralded era. You know, everyone talks about All Japan in the 90s, and for good reason. But like, I don't know, I came up on that early 80s All Japan stuff. So like, I love the funk stuff. Like, I just do.
Next question: thoughts on Conor McGregor's comments on wanting to kill just Dustin Poirier and the lack of backlash that McGregor has gotten. I typed this question out because I feel like it's silly that McGregor got a pass while Deontay Wilder got major backlash for his comments on wanting a body on his resume, just calling out the double standards.
I'll be honest with you. Nobody gives a fuck about either of them. That's the truth. I could see where you're coming from, because I think if you're in a certain sort of bubble of fandom, you know, if you're like, let's be clear, boxing circles are small. And so if you see backlash against Wilder saying that, you know, and I definitely saw that online to some degree, it's still like so small. It's not like national media news was like, former world champion Deontay Wilder said he wanted to murder his next. Like, no one gives a fuck. It's boxing, and no one it's not like because Wilder's black and Conor's white, you know, they did one thing and then did the other. The reality is both sports are somewhat niche, and nobody gave a fuck about either of those comments because people don't take them seriously. I think both of those comments were disgusting. And I don't think that either fighter should be saying that, because the reality is you can kill someone in fighting.
Right.
It has happened many times. So I'm always like disgusted when I hear someone be like, yo, I'm trying to, you know, catch a body, whatever the fuck, you know. No, I don't like that shit from either guy. But I don't think there was a double standard. I think people that are like big fans didn't like it, and I think the majority of humans in the world just didn't hear it and don't care and don't know.
He also asked thoughts on the whole Tyson Fury situation with COVID-19. Has COVID-19 become the new way of ducking fights?
Yeah, I've heard some talk that maybe that was the case. I don't know. I've heard some things possible, like, you know, not being in shape or not taking camp seriously. Who knows? I don't know the answer to that. I'm assuming. I don't know. I assumed that they got COVID and it's legit. Like, they really got COVID. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but you know, I feel like if you're using COVID to duck fights, then that's probably not a good sign if that were in fact the case.
Yeah, hopefully, I would hope that it's actual, with how serious COVID is, that it would be a situation where he actually didn't have it. So. And the last question here: thoughts on the upcoming undisputed junior middleweight title fight between Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano?
You know, to be honest, that's not a division I've paid a lot of attention to in the past couple of years, especially since guys like you know, Mayweather and Canelo and the other Charlo brother have all kind of left that division, and some other pretty prominent fighters. So, I mean, I know Jermell Charlo for sure, but I don't even know Brian Castano. I don't have thoughts on it, I mean, at all.
Yep, and I don't have any thoughts on it either.
Yeah, I wish I could offer you a better take on that. I mean, I'm at the point right now where, like, you know, years ago, I used to literally watch everything every weekend, all the time. I would keep up with all of it. But like, I'm at the point where it's like, unless it's like, you know, pretty mainstream with boxing, and you know what, MMA too. I just, you know, with this show and everything else going on in my life, like I can't see it all. You know, it's impossible.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up the questions for this week. So real quick, we have recommended match of the week. Last week, I recommended Omega versus Ichii. from the G1 special in USA to crown the first ever IWGP US champ. Did you get to rewatch this match?
I did, but I gotta ask you before we move on. You know, you have some pretty harsh words for Inoki and Luthez, and I feel, Jeremy, and I'm not gonna sway your opinion. Your opinion's your opinion, but the one thing I will rebuttal is like, some pretty harsh words for a 16-minute match.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it wasn't long, but I was just sitting there like, they're just like in holes the whole time. It's like,
oh no, man, that match is fantastic. You're crazy. I don't know what you were
I don't
watching.
know. Maybe I need to rewatch it, but
No, you don't need to rewatch it. It's too good for you. I don't know. It's like, you know, you're supposed to be the shooter here. You're supposed to be appreciating the technical acumen.
There was too much technical acumen.
No, that match is good. I don't know what you're talking about. How was your day going? Were you like relaxed? Was everything good? You weren't distracted?
I'm trying to think if I might have watched like a New Japan, like a regular New Japan show before that. That might not have helped.
Man, you can't be doing that shit. But as far as the match that you gave me, obviously very famous match. Kenny Omega versus Tomohiro Ishii from July 2nd, New Japan G1 Special in USA, Day 2. This was the finals of the single elimination tournament to crown the first ever IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. And this was the second time I've seen this match. When I saw this match initially, I thought the match was outstanding. But I was also, a lot of people kind of forget that these guys sort of had I think they had a 3 to 4 match series that year, if I recall. I'm pretty sure it was 4 because I think they fought in the G1 that year. Plus, they had the 2-match series at the beginning of the year, one in the New Japan Cup, and then the other one when Omega returned from his sabbatical after Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
So, and I believe this was the third, maybe fourth match. This is the third match in the series. And at the time watching it, I was like, that was really good, but it doesn't hold up to, the first 2 matches in the series. I was like, this is the lowest one. Going back and rewatching it in hindsight, I actually have a flipped view. I think that this is probably the second best match in the history of Ishii and Omega. Followed only behind the famous, 2019 match that they had in the G1.
In the G1, yeah, where Ishii beats Kenny.
Yes, and this match still holds up. It is just awesome. It takes a lot of the stuff from their Dontaku match that was really excellent from that same year, and then it adds the bonus of like the raucous crowd, that fresh environment that they had, the added stakes that were involved, and then being in the main event of a major U.S. tour show like this in a special spot, it was just awesome. Plus, like all the stuff with the table spot with the Dragon Suplex and Ishii trying to stop it from happening, by biting the ropes, like that's always going to be a memorable spot. Even if you don't remember anything else about the match, you'll always remember like that moment. I think this match more than holds up. I've always said that string of like 3 to 4 matches for Kenny Omega, because he wrestled at such a high level. He wrestled Elgin, Jay Lethal, and Ishii. Were those the only 3 guys, or was there another guy?
I think that was it, yeah.
I felt like that was on the same level as and reminiscent to like what Brett did in King of the Ring '93. It was just a really, really special, lineup, and having Ishii be the final guy there, the guy that had already beat him earlier in the year, just kind of raised the stakes. I thought that this match was incredible. I'm at the point where like I go 5 on it, and honestly, I think it's better than a lot of what we're seeing in New Japan nowadays. Even as lauded as some of these matches are, I think it holds up and exceeds a lot of the top rated matches in New Japan today.
Yeah, awesome matchup. And yeah, that turnbuckle bite spot, the crowd like popped and lost their mind for that. So yeah, awesome matchup. Glad I rewatched it. And yeah, we hadn't really talked about it because we started the show a little bit after that tournament happened. So yeah, those are some cool shows that happened there for the G1 special.
Okay, awesome. So my recommendation, since you kind of gave us throwback 2017, I decided to return the favor in kind. I'm not going to give you a 1970s match. We're going back to 2017 as well, Pinnacle, and we're going to Cork and Hall on July 22nd, 2017. So just 20 days after the match that you gave me. And in the main event, it will be Kazuchika Okada versus Michael Elgin, Day 4 of the G1 Climax 2017 B Block. This match got 4 3/4 from Dave Meltzer and is, in my opinion, probably Michael Elgin's best match in New Japan ever.
Yeah, I don't even know if I saw this match because, again, that was...
I got a feeling you probably weren't watching it.
Yeah, because
watching the G1 like that back then.
Right, because that was, that was before we started the show, and like I was just starting to like watch more New Japan. So yeah, I don't think I don't recall this match. So
yeah, that's why I kind of recommended it. So if you guys haven't seen that match, it's incredible. It's a top 5 G1 match from an incredible G1 year. So highly recommend it. We'll see what comes about next week.
Awesome. Well, that's going to wrap things up here for this week. Next week we'll be back to review the Summer Struggle show happening in Cork this weekend, along with the tag team Turbulence happening in Strong, and we'll do our official preview and predictions for the rest of the Summer Struggle tour. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style, the network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/socialsuplex. You can find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can check out our Discord server. The link for that's in the show notes. You can also email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Make sure you check out all the other shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. We have the Grave Consequences podcast with Caleb and Maserati. We have the 8-Bit Suplex with Josh number 2. We have All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin, and the Great Match Generator with Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.